Welcome everybody to Wednesday Night Modern. It's a cold one here in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, but we're nice and warm inside and we're ready for some fantastic magic playing. My name is Haviva Goodman alongside Dominic Stryker. Dom, how you doing tonight? It's good to have you.
I am having a blast. I have been chatting with Adam Weiss, our burn boy, burn guru, local grinder.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard about him before. He's pretty good at the game, likes to play a deck known as Burn, but today it's a little different. Has he discussed the changes with you at all?
Yeah, I may have been hitting him up in the DMs a couple days ago. As we see David here, look like we're rocking scales, starting off with this ancient stirrings. But Adam is the one we brought in for this spice. You can see not only is it saying burn, Adam's classic, but saying Mardu burn. For
Right.
those unaware with Magic's color pie, typically Adam plays red and white burn or Boros burn. We've now added black, so we're up to 3 colors in this burn deck. And the thing I've been wanting to do for so long, 0 creatures.
In a fury heavy, solitude heavy format.
Get 'em out.
Get them out of here. They're like Adam said, they're getting them for 2 damage, sometimes for,
Maybe.
it's really not worth it. It's better just to get another burn spell in there, which he's included. It's Bump in the Night. I thought he was going to put in I think it's called Hopeless Nightmare.
Oh yeah, look next to the bump in the night.
Oh, there they are. Awesome. We got both of them. So those are the black cards that he's playing in his deck. Bump in the Night is just a target opponent loses 3 life, and then you can flash it back for 6 and do it again. Hopeless Nightmare is the new enchantment from Wilds of Eldraine, where they lose only 2, but they also discard a card. So
Right.
pretty great. There it is on the screen there for you folks.
And there it is on the screen.
And there it is on the field. David's going to give that a quick read. It doesn't really see a lot of play in Modern, I
No.
would say.
I think the spot where this first started seeing play is the meme tier burn deck of the mono black burn that a lot of streamers were using as the backup. It's late in the evening. Let's try something wacky. And Adam went deep in the tank and went, well, what if?
Yeah.
What if for me?
Aha, funny joke, but
Yeah, but and interesting. Think of this Hopeless Nightmare as our Goblin Guide. It came into play. It dealt 2 damage, and our opponent discarded a card. Ergo, maybe they use a removal spell on my Goblin Guide, right?
Sure.
This is getting the exact same amount of value, but isn't giving targets for my opponent's cards. So we're stranding more cards, making more dead cards. Backed it up with this lava spike and a bump, and David's down to 12 with no creatures to be seen.
Yeah, David's got a couple of his own though. He's playing scale, so we got that Sojourner. I forget the full name of it.
Oh, this Patchwork Automaton?
Oh,
here?
never mind. I'm thinking of a different card.
This one's, I think, the most annoying because it has Ward 2, which makes it really difficult to remove. Thankfully, Adam, not here to remove your spells.
Yeah, makes his decision trees a little bit easier. Don't even look at those creatures at all. Just keep sending them straight to the face.
And what you'll see here as you see these dice is the Patchwork Automaton has every time an artifact comes into play, it gets a 1/1 counter. So the first one came in with no counters. The second one pumped it up, and now the Ozlith pumped up both of them off those ETBs. So we have these big attackers.
Hardened Scales has a lot of moving pieces. I don't think we've ever had it on stream before, so I'm looking forward to see how it performs here. Adam's going to give him quite a hard time though with all these pesky burn spells.
Right, another bump, and David's down to 9. 9 is the perfect number for a burn deck to get just those last few points of damage in.
We lost 2 from okay, because I was trying to figure out how we were at an even multiple of 3 there, but it's because of the Bump in the Night takes us down.
Right, yeah, and alongside...
Sorry, the Hopeless Nightmare.
Yep, and you'll see a small glare on Adam's bottom right of his mana base. That is the Blood Crypt, so this is where we're getting all this black mana. And immediately paying off, drawing 3 of the 6 black burn spells that we're putting in this deck that would have been creatures that would have ran just head first into these automatons.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's been drawing pretty well for this game 1 here. We got an Urza Saga up on 2, can start making some creatures there, and an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. We've seen that card a bunch recently. That's a new one from Wilds of Eldraine as well. Does a lot of stuff.
And we maybe in secret, I think it was off the Hopeless Nightmare. This Walking Ballista has made its way into the graveyard, or David may have played it for 0. But very importantly, we can turn both of these automatons into Walking Ballistas at any time if we choose to put them into the cauldron. Which is, a combat for many, followed by all of these counters. This could just be lethal right now because of how impactful this Soul Cauldron is by itself.
Yeah, I think David's explaining to Adam exactly what's about to
Math.
happen here. Hardened Scales does a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
tap 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 on the board state.
While we look at the finger math here, one of my favorite parts about Adam's deck, I gotta make sure it's sneakily in here somewhere. Yes, we are playing now because we have access to black. We are playing Mount Doom,
Mount
aka Burn Spell
Doom.
and the mana base.
Oh right.
Because Adam is very used to, as we see, we're scooping it up off from this machine gun that David has assembled. But Mount Doom allowing you to turn, like, drawing too many lands into turning that mana into slowly ticking away the last few points of your opponent's life total.
Right. That's the really the thing about burn, right? They got some really fast kills and they burn out
Yes.
as it were kind of quickly, and Mount Doom provides a little bit more staying power, gives them a couple more turns of relevancy. Here's Adam's full 75, though. He has submitted his deck list, so let's take a look at his sideboard. Here we're rocking 3 Path to Exiles, 3 Exquisite Firecrafts, 3 Wear Tears on their side there, 3 Engineered Explosives, and 3 Roiling Vortexes. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. All
Yeah, the
5 different cards there. Yeah.
There's only like 2 ways to build your burn mana base. It's 4-4-4-3 or 3-3-3-3-3.
Okay.
Haha. You can build your however
Yeah.
you want, right? But this is kind of the classic of deck building of like all 4s, slot your lands in, a very clean sideboard. What's interesting is the Hardened Scales deck might be one of the few decks that is kind of racing alongside burn, right?
Sure. I mean, they did it successfully there in game 1.
And Adam's draw was spectacular.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking about is we have these Path to Exiles, but we did just lose the 2 creatures that have Ward.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, we technically lost to the Walking
to
Ballista.
the Soul Cauldron on top of those creatures, right?
Yeah, so I think the most relevant card here is going to be like the Wear Tears or the Engineered Explosives.
Yes, I'm loving the Engineered Explosives.
Mm-hmm.
A very cool fact of the fact that this is now 3-color burn. Engineered Explosives can go even higher if there's problematic 3-cost permanents because it factors in each color that you use. So now we have access to getting a 3rd color in there. But I'm really interested in putting this on 2 and taking care of a lot of that stuff that's giving me problems, putting it on 1 and cleaning up like Ozoliths and early creatures. That it might, the EE here might factor like it kind of does against Rhinos, giving you just a quick board wipe to slow them down so you can get those last few points in.
Right. Adam had David down to 9, so we really only needed like 1 or 2 more turns.
Yes.
So you just got to stall him for a little bit. Do you think the Wear Tears then are too slow? You don't want single like spot removal, right? You really just want the sweeping Engineered Explosive, or do you bring them both in? Because I know we've talked about like diluting your main board plan.
What's really interesting is this sideboard. The Roiling Vortex and the Exquisite Firecrafts are burn spells, but 9 of these are all dilution, right? The rest of these are not burn spell variants that become spell plus burn. These are just spells to answer problems. So I'm hopefully just going to default to Adam. We'll see if we see these Wear Tears and wondering maybe we do see them dilute too much or have just enough to answer a pinpoint problem and keep burning.
I think one of the issues with the sideboard is he's taken out completely the easy subtractions, right? Like against Hardened Scales, you'll take out those creatures very quickly, but with no creatures to remove, your sideboarding gets slightly harder.
That's genius the way you put that, right? When you do play burn, taking the creatures out is one of the easiest ways to sideboard in matchups like this. And now it's evaluating just who's your worst burn spell versus what's your worst cards, because those cards aren't even here anymore. Adam did that before the game even began.
I think it's probably the Hopeless Nightmare then, because it only does 2 as opposed to all of our other things that do 3, I guess, excepting the Play with Fires.
Right, and the Play with Fires are to kind of help us to move through our library to get that scry in. And my thought is usually Rift Bolt, because I always worry about the delay that this card has, and it doesn't matter for like triggering a Swift Spear anymore. Like that's not here, so it's just for triggering the
Skewer
the Critics, which may be important enough for Adam to want to hold on to these. But right now we're on just the classic burn. Our opponent already down to 14. David had the slow start of an Ozolith as opposed to a creature, and we're even paying the mana because the Rift Bolt's coming off suspend, allowing us to pay the ward with our 2 mana. So maybe I'm all wrong about the Rift Bolt. It was perfectly timed there.
Yeah, working out pretty well here. David just an Ozolith now, but he does have an Urza Saga again, which will provide him some potential creature generation.
Right. Can we take a peek at what are the saga targets may be?
I don't think we have David's deck list available.
David.
I know a regular. He should know better. I've been trying to get on people to submit their deck lists, and we've got a good stock of them now. But perhaps we can find just another one from Goldfish where we can
And here's that
pull off
hopeless
of.
nightmare.
I guess sometimes we're really good
Right.
at predicting sideboarding, and sometimes we're really bad at it.
And there could be the non-zero chance that if I'm Adam, I came here to play these new cards.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not cutting them, even if I feel like I should, because I want to
Oh.
feel how they play.
That's a really interesting point. I didn't think about it like that.
Right? Because the weekly Wednesday is for figuring out how your RCQ is going to feel, right? So Adam may, even if you're like, oh, this isn't the best, might just be leaving it here to allow themselves to continue to feel what the card's like. We're chuckling over a chalice that we are not taking off this stirrings. Possibly, I guess, David hinting at the fact that he might lock himself out more than he does Adam.
Do you think he plays mainboard Chalice? Or no?
No, we've seen Chalice lock out many a burn player. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because Chalice on 1 is even better against this new configuration, with Adam adding 6 spells over the 6 creatures.
What can you grab off Ancient Stirrings?
A card without a color. So
So he could have grabbed the Chalice.
right. So there was a chuckle here for sure that I think David may just be identifying.
Maybe he really needs the land.
Right, or they're just so far behind that they can't spend 2 mana to try to stop Adam and need to advance their own board state. Or maybe it's Chalice, but they have a handful of 1s and you just can't take it, even though it might be good against Adam.
Sure. All good points there. Adam, I'm trying to see how many cards he's got left in hand. Zabaz comes down on the field. I'm going to pull up a Hardened Skills deck list here myself to remind me of what all these cards do.
David here, you just missed it. Pulled out the Zabaz, but then went through their deck and found the extended art Zabaz, so they have the good one out.
Yeah, if you're on camera, you gotta show the pimped versions off for sure.
Yeah, Zabaz, a card that wasn't popular for a while, then really revived by this Scales deck coming to prominence.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see this deck is basically green with this like teeny tiny red splash for activating this Zabaz to destroy your own artifacts to get the modular chain going.
And to also put them into the graveyard for Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
And your creatures can become Zabazes and have access to these
Oh
abilities.
my goodness. The synergy.
Which makes me, and interestingly, if you have the Cauldron, you can pay any color of mana to activate abilities, which means you have access to the flying ability that the mana base usually doesn't have access to.
Yeah, I feel like Hardened Skills has gained a lot of very important tools in the past couple of sets here.
And Ballista's going in the Cauldron here, targeting this Hangerback Walker.
Put it in the soup.
Put it in this. We got beans, we got soup.
It's a crunchy soup.
Right, if it's full of walking Ballista. This,
oh, man.
For lack of a better term, gun with legs. Like
Sure. Yeah, you called it a machine gun last game. It goes brrr.
Because I believe Ballista's just the big, giant crossbow launcher, so we're not far off. As we see the resolution here, this Hangerback getting slightly bigger, and now the Zabaz and this Hangerback Walker having Walking Ballista's abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything goes odd, this Ozolith to back it up, play with fire upstairs for the scry mode, and I saw a Boros Charm on top. So we're going bolt, bolt. You're going down to 3, flip the Boros Charm off the top.
Oh, man. Love it.
I mean, this is why Adam likes these play with fires, is say if it was a land on top there, and they need literally any burn spell in their deck, this allows them that 1 turn reprieve to scry that to the bottom and be even deeper. Adam here seeing Boros Charm and knowing it was over, but still it allows him that selection, that time to figure it out.
I think both those games ended on turn 3 or 4. Those were very, very quick. We pulled up a deck list from Goldfish, though, MTG Goldfish. So this is just an example, not the exact list that David's running, but this is going to give us a good idea of what he's working with here.
The part that is interesting to me is, depending on how close we are to this list, we could be on the old Tron trick that Tron used to do against Burn, which is bringing in Nature's Claims, and then Nature's claiming our own artifacts to gain us 4 life. Because it is a destroy artifact or enchantment gain 4. So in this situation, Tron used to bring in Nature's Claim against Burn and target your own stars and spears and use that to gain yourself 4. We may be in a situation where we can use this as a sack outlet, right, to maybe get something into the graveyard for a purpose while also gaining ourselves 4 life.
Absolutely.
And we have a Shadow Spear. That's so interesting.
Ooh.
I was wondering if Saga had a life gain source. So it is very good to think about the fact that Shadow Spear is looming.
Yeah, what they can grab off Urza Saga would be that Shadow Spear.
The
The
Ozolith,
Ozolith are the
Zabaz,
big ones, yeah.
and maybe a jar to keep itself safe.
Hanger Backwalker and Walking Ballista don't technically count because it does specifically denote those icons in the
Yes,
top
it
right.
must say 0 or 1.
Yeah.
And we see Adam already asking about scales math as David opens on hardened scales into the Ozolith with a sneaky Ink Moth in the mana base.
Ooh.
It's so hard when you're playing at scales because this kind of looks like they're doing nothing, but it's kind of them also doing everything. Where they're
Is that
getting
not a
fully set
Caverns?
up. This one is the Ink Moth.
Oh, it is the Ink Moth. They both
They
have
both
so
have
much purple.
Yeah, they have that beautiful purple center. I've just died to enough Ink Moths to know who this is.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's got the big new Phyrexia watermark. Like this
I
is
see it.
Blinky. We got Blink Moth and Ink Moth nexus. And the beautiful Zabaz.
Extended art.
3 counters.
That's the thing with hardened scales, is that I'm very on edge when I play against them because I feel like with burn I know exactly how it works. It's a little more easy for me to math out how dead I am, right? Because it's usually equal to the number of mana they have available.
This math is much harder.
This math is a little bit harder to do here.
I think it was Mason Clark who right now is really championing alongside Aspiring Spike the power of scales right now in the meta, but how difficult it is to be good at playing scales.
Sure, it's definitely not a deck you can just pick up and play.
No, but when it's good, people will feel incentivized to pick it up and play it. But that's difficult because of how hard it is to pilot the deck.
Adam went to target this Zabaz with a bolt. Hesitate. I think David explained to him what was going to happen if he tried to do that.
All those counters are going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam not used to having to do the finger math to figure out something for their opponent's side of the board, usually just counting on their own.
Right.
This was a difficult part of Magic where some games you have to play your deck and your opponent plays theirs. This is one of those games where Adam's brain needs to play both decks to figure out where you're at. These are the types of games that can really tax someone when you're not piloting your own, but trying to figure out what are they going to do and what am I going to do. It almost feels like you're playing both sides of the match.
That's a really good way to put it. You have not just the mental strain of playing your own deck, but you also got to figure out what your opponent's doing there, yeah.
Like, when it's against scales, I don't want to get the math wrong when I'm the opponent because that could be the difference between me winning or losing the game. But I have to also do that math for my own deck when I'm here playing Burn.
Right. See a Boros Charm in hand about to come down.
The math might get easier the more Boros Charms you draw.
For sure, yeah. He's sitting at a hefty 19 here. David down to 5 puts him on a 2 burn spell clock.
The question is there a way to make a giant Ink Moth? Yep. So we're going to use the ability of this Zabaz to shatter both of our own creatures, as well as legend ruling this Zabaz. We're going to pump this Ink Moth up. I think easily going to get to 10 counters and swing in here with Adam fully tapped out from removal.
Oh, man.
Because we're going to legend rule, and that copy would have had 3 counters, which means those 3 move to Ink Moth and gain the extras from everything else going on here. And now we're going to shatter both of our own creatures, move all of these counters in a large amount, and swing for far over 10.
Oh, man. What was the card he played? I can't quite tell.
I believe that's the one of Shard Volley they were trying out, which is sack a land, get your burn in. Adam may be saying, oh, I could have possibly killed the creature, but I just wasn't quite sure of the math. But
yeah, he Boros Charmed on his own turn there. I love the art there.
Oh, man. And you may see our players racing to get up. We do have a backup feature match out there, but we're still working on getting all the camera stuff all set up. So we're going to chat real quick while we get them all shifted over for y'all out there.
Yeah, in addition to Magic, we have a bunch of other games that you can play or different formats of Magic if Modern isn't quite your thing. Tonight, of course, is Wednesday, so we've got Modern. Tomorrow we'll feature Commander Night and Pokemon we will be streaming as well, so tune in for that. Friday will be Legacy FNM and One Piece. Saturday and Monday are Digimon. We do have BT14 coming out soon, so check out picking up boxes of that. Monday is also our other Commander Night. Tuesday wraps up the schedule with not Pioneer anymore. We've replaced it with Lorcana. We have both our restock and our set 2 pre-orders available on the website right now, so go snatch those up. And then One Piece League as well rounds out our Tuesday schedule. Let's get back down to the action, though. We're going to tune in.
I think we perfectly caught them at the beginning of a game, so we are live, we are clear for takeoff, and we're right at the beginning of this game. We'll check in on info as soon as we have it.
Yeah, we will get this HUD updated as soon as we can. We've got Ray on the left and May on the right.
Oh, right.
Their submitted deck lists are Cowaponza and
Thanks, Ray
Murktide.
Oh, hey, everyone.
Yeah.
May and I, we are of the Lands in Front crew.
Oh, boy. Okay. For sure.
May is going to play comfortably right now with their lands in front. If things get real messy, we can get a chat real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't play against people playing with lands in front very often. I know some people get very upset about it. But it doesn't really affect the game that much. I don't think it's too distracting. Let's talk about Ponza for a second,
yes,
though.
please.
I've never seen it played. I've just heard about it. Ponza, of course, does not refer to a magic card at all. It is just the nickname of a land destruction-based deck.
Right, that we learned was popularized with the name of an Italian restaurant in Madison that was shouted out at CubeCon.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to guess, it feels like maybe it was popularized playing Magic in the back of a pizza shop, right? And now it has grown beyond that. But Ponza itself, land destruction is the name of the game. You see May here using our fetch lands, getting out our fast land and Spire Bluff Canal. Ray setting up with this Wilds of Eldraine enchanting Utopia Sprawl, but we're getting prepared to remove these lands from the availability for May to use them, but May getting this Ragavan locked and loaded to possibly be their way to get back into the game, allowing them to have this, as I call it, a Birds of Paradise that attacks for 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking a look at Ray's deck list here. The land destruction that he's got in here would be Acidic Slime, Obsidian Charma, and Avalanche Rider.
And the classic Blood Moon.
And Blood Moon. Blood Moon doesn't technically destroy them, but
turns them off.
Especially against Murktide, doesn't make them unusable.
Oh, sorry, it looks like we got trapped. If we go to the right of these lands, I'm seeing Molten Rains.
Oh,
I'm
right, the obvious.
Acid
yeah.
Moth. I'm seeing Stone Rain. I'm seeing Plow Under. I'm seeing Pillage.
Oh, man. Yeah, a full 15 in the main board land destruction.
Alongside a Bloodbraid Elf Cascade package to find some of these.
Oh, boy.
The clock is ticking, right? So very importantly, you can see Ray pointing it out here. Utopia Sprawl is a ramp source, but it must enchant a forest.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray has this basic forest enchanted with Utopia Sprawl. That when Blood Moon's effect takes place, it's a basic, so it's unaffected, so it remains a juiced up forest.
Mm.
It's one of the early pieces of learning the Utopia Sprawl, Blood Moon, like Ponza strat, is making sure you don't lose your ramp once you play your Blood Moon.
Right, the whole layers discussion sort of comes into effect, and my brain shuts off.
So if you think about it this way, if I started on this Rootborn Crag and put Utopia Sprawl on it, that wouldn't have worked because it's not even a forest.
Right.
Say I had my Stomping Ground.
Mm-hmm.
It is a non-basic land, so when Blood Moon happens, it becomes a mountain. Utopia Sprawl says it enchants a forest, checks and says, you're not a forest, I'm out of here.
But if you do it before the Blood Moon, it won't fall off.
It will fall off.
It will fall off.
That's why Ray, you can see being very specific here to make sure that exactly their basic forests are the ones that are enchanted.
I see what you're saying. Okay. I think I've got it now.
Avalanche Riders. Enters the battlefield, destroy target land with Echo.
And then Echo is, during your next upkeep after this permanent comes under your control, pay its casting cost or sacrifice
You have to either pay for it twice or get rid of it. This one, thankfully, also has haste.
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of picture this as a land destruction spell that hits for 2. So we also have Molten Rain in the deck, which is a Stone Rain that deals 3 damage if it's a non-basic. Avalanche Rider is kind of the same way in the fact that it will deal 2 damage while also getting that Stone Raining effect. And it looks like it was so important that it looks like May used a bolt to remove that Riders from play.
She did indeed didn't give Ray a chance to pay that Echo Cost. Going to crash in with the Ragavan again, hit a basic forest off the top, and then we're going to bobble the top of Ray's deck.
I love a cool treasure token. I have to check out what these are that May's using.
Yeah, they're looking kind of funky. It's like a computer. Like I think I see like some code on the
Yeah,
bottom
it looks
there.
like it's coding.
I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, Ray here playing so many basic forests that they could play a card like Rootbound Crag that checks for you having forests in play. Alongside the synergy of Arbor Elf, this is a classic. Arbor Elf taps to untap a forest.
Yeah.
We have these Utopia Sprawls enchanted, so it allows us to ramp even further, it untapping a land that taps for more than one.
And here comes a Plow Under. Put 2 target lands on top of their opponent's library. So not only losing 2 mana sources, but also basically gives you dead draws for 2 turns as well.
It's a cube staple here. May, well aware, use their Force Negation so that does not happen to them, and then use their removal spell to remove the Arbor Elf, trying to stymie Ray Ray's development as much as they possibly can. You can see there's this middle pile here of the Acidic Slime Forest and Utopia Sprawl. Those were the cards exiled with Ragavan. So that's our current exile zone, not a weird little mid-tier combat zone.
Right. Good shout there. Lot of different zones in Magic now. You got the graveyard, you got the battlefield, you got the exile, you got Dothy Voidwalker, void tokens, slivers with silver tokens with the Karn.
Yep.
All sorts of fun things you can do with Magic cards.
A very important thing that you can see May doing here that is kind of very specific to playing against land destruction strategies is, I know we're under the effect of Blood Moon, but we also have this uncracked fetch, which if Blood Moon wasn't here, having a fetch uncracked allows you a source to find mana that can't be land destruction until you're ready to make it available to them. So if we ever find an answer to this Blood Moon, this is also another land that we could unlock if we need to.
This Ragavan doing a lot of work now. These treasure tokens have been invaluable to keep May in this game.
This Stone Rain Classic, though, blowing up the mountain that was Misty Rain Forest.
Now we're just sitting with a monkey
and 2
treasures.
1 treasure.
Consider, I think.
And this is Guttural Response, which is a green-red hybrid spell that counters a blue spell. We are specific in our hate here today.
Wow. I have never seen this card before.
And it countered a Lord of the Rings Consider, but this Ragavan is our lone soldier in this matchup. Ray,
ooh, hit a lightning bolt off the top.
Right, that Ray wishes they would have had to answer this Ragavan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Blood Red off the top. Here we go.
What are we going to hit? Ooh, very nice. Pretty
Cascade.
Copy.
Oh, Pillage. Oh, it can destroy an artifact. Hit a treasure. Yes, Ray. Which is like blowing up a land here because these are so important.
In response, May is going to crack both, cast a counter spell.
Ray now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, and May has a single Ragavan.
Been doing work though. Ray's down to 8 here. Gonna hit a Molten Rain off the top. Don't have enough mana to cast it ourselves, unfortunately.
Drawing a Stomping Ground. This is our only card in hand. This Ragavan may just go all the way, attacking 10 times for 2 damage.
Fable the Mirror Breaker is the hit off the top.
A card that Ray also wishes they would have drawn.
That's a good blocker against this monkey.
DRC, I'm sure we're fully delirious.
I would think so, yeah.
Ray, this top card is very important. It's an Ignoble Hierarch.
It's a blocker!
It's a blocker. It was a blocker. It is Unholy Heated.
Oh, man.
Surveil trigger. May on the hunt now for their own bolt to just put this game away.
Preordain I agree with the hesitancy a little bit there. That's like a potential.
Digs so deep.
Yeah, but just want to look deeper for more relevant cards here.
You can see the slow roll trying to find Ray's own bolts here for May to use.
All right, Mishra's Bobble.
Reveal another Preordain. Get that out of here. Take a peek at Ray's top card. Send it back.
Oh.
Ray, do you have a Wrath? Deal with both these creatures?
A Wrath?
Yeah, an Anger of the Gods, anything?
No.
Oh, boy, does it not look like it.
No.
And we drew a Monvoli Acid Moss, and that's the game. Murktide with 0 lands in play. Just a Ragavan taking the opponent from 20 all the way down to 0.
And 0 Murktides, too, I should add.
I wonder if you side them out because you just don't think you're going to have lands available.
I guess it's a really good point, yeah.
It's a dangerous matchup, but made traverse the waters that was Ponza, came out on top, even beat Guttural Response in 0 lands in play. Absolutely wonderful.
All right, we had some fantastic matches in our first round there. But before we head into our round 2, let's talk about our final NRG series event of the year. We're going to be in Madison, Wisconsin, which we just mentioned.
Where CubeCon was.
Yeah, where CubeCon was, where Ponzo was created. We're going to be adding our last championship players to our championship event. We've got 6 at-large bids and 1 showdown spot remaining. So if you spike that Saturday event, you are locked for that 16-player invitational. So be sure to show up and give it your all, as well as all of our players jockeying for those top spots on the leaderboard as well. If Modern isn't your thing, we've got a 5K Pioneer Trial on Sunday, as well as fantastic side events, artists to meet up with, sales booth employees to hang out with and chat with as well. For now, though, we're going to head into a quick commercial while we pick our round 2 features. Stay tuned.
See y'all soon.
Welcome back, folks. We're in round 2 of 4 here for some fantastic Wednesday night Modern. We got 2 good ones for you here. I think we need to swap the cameras real quick there. We got Eric on the left, Andre on the right. 4-color versus Bluetron. We haven't had Bluetron on in a minute. Usually it's Kai rocking it. But we got Andre today, and Eric's rocking his usual 4-color. So we'll see how the cards fall.
I just said to you, production staff, when there's one player playing Bluetron, fun, interesting. Oh, cool, it's the Bluetron player. When there's 4 people playing Bluetron, it's like, oh my gosh. So now it's a little bit of spice, a little bit of a seasoning. Like, oh, there's the one Bluetron player out there. Be careful. Yeah. And I'm very excited because I love the card Sundering Titan. And you know Bluetron's got access to it, and that is the 1-2 punch when you're playing against 4-color beans.
Is Eric rocking beans? I mean, he's got it, right?
You gotta be.
How do you not?
It's the era of the bean.
We had two 4-color bean decks on the Super League today.
Yeah,
I believe.
And 2 scam.
And 2 scam. Yeah.
It's the spooky week.
Ooh.
What it is, these players in the Super League are trying to qualify for the top 8 of the Super League.
Yeah,
they're playing the decks now.
They got to play something serious for sure. The first couple of weeks we had a little bit of fun. Yeah. We actually had, some interesting sort of diversity in the decks.
Spike lost, Doomwake lost, all the WotC staff lost, and it's like anybody who would have been playing like, oh, check this out, gone. Like now you are seeing a true snapshot of like this is the power of the current Modern format.
This week it was Mason Clark, Javi Dominguez,
Dingo,
Corey Baumeister, and Young Dingo. Yeah, I don't even know his full name. I always just know him. I've known him as Dingo. Do you know?
Literally, when I watch tournament coverage, they put his name up on the tournament as Young Dingo.
Seriously?
So I could not tell you.
Alrighty, there you go. We're gonna start off our game at hand though. Classic Tron turn 1 play is an Urzaland into an expedition map.
So if you were to ask me right now, oh, what are you playing at your RCQ? It is either Tron or Burn. I think now is the era when everyone is trying in like this arms race of like trying to be very fast with Scam or generate as much value as possible with Beans. I want to either be all the way at the fastest or at the biggest.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Right, so I want to be at the beginning and just burn these players out of the game, or I want to be playing Tron and putting Ugins, Sundering Titans, and just like ruining their days.
When you say Tron, though, are you including Bluetron, or is Bluetron its own thing?
So I'm going to include Bluetron, not that I would play it, but I'm including Bluetron because Andre has the same weapons, but they also have counter spells to interact with the early game. I'm very intrigued as they were scrolling through their hand. There is an Emrakul the Promised End.
Interesting.
Big 13 mana Delirium Emrakul that takes your opponent's turn, but I'm worried that we mulliganed and decided to keep a 13er and put something else back.
Interesting. So are we hoping to ramp up all the way into that? I guess so.
Right, and we have 2 Tron pieces. We've cracked this map, and this map found an island. I'm your opponent. You're Tron. You search for a basic land. You are signaling, wee. Either I have 3rd Tron piece or I need blue so desperately.
Absolutely.
That it's more important.
Bluetron, I think, a little more often than a standard Tron deck, like I guess you would call it Green Tron. probably grabs basics a little more often than
Yes,
them.
blue does for sure.
Because they have more colored spells in their deck, I believe.
Right,
So
and
they
you can
need
see
that
in their
mana.
hand repeals, condescends, thirst for knowledges. Like they have all these blue cards that they just need to cast. So we're searching at this island to unlock our hand, as opposed to unlocking the big spells. We're making sure we can even get the small ones. But I also see a tower. So not only did we get blue, but we have Tron rolled up for next turn.
Very nice there. We'll see what Eric does with his turn. He's just gotten Up the Beanstalk on his side of the field. I don't know if you've heard about this card, folks, at home. Up the Beanstalk. Pretty good card. Big fan of it. Not the most expensive card or most played. I
It's
think
like
it's the
four
most.
doll hairs.
I know.
And is fighting. So Beans, Soul Cauldron, and Not Dead After All
Yeah.
must be fighting for most played card from Wild Eldraine because
I
they're.
was just about to say Beans is definitely the most played, and then no,
It's hard. It might
not
not
Dead
be.
After All has got to be up there too.
And Soul Cauldron's in Scales and Yogg.
That's fair. Yeah, Soul Cauldron is definitely the most expensive card that's played widely from Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah, versus the 25-cent Not Dead After All and the mythic uncommon that is the Beans, as Renin 6 is caught here by a subtlety.
Pitching a blue card.
That one is repeal.
Repeal. All right.
That's the bounce and then draw a card.
For sure. I'm gonna get a Bluetron list pulled up myself here for reference.
Yeah, a lot of toys not used by other decks. The Tron package is here, the Tron payoffs are here, but what they're doing along the way is usually very different.
How far down the list do you think Bluetron is?
We had to search pretty far earlier.
Yeah.
We're even playing an Impulse right now, just digging. Interesting Impulse, almost acting like the blue version of Ancient Stirrings for this Tron deck, right? Ancient Stirrings lets you look 5 deep and find a card. This allows you to look 4 deep while playing on the instant speed back and forth of Tron, and we might be using it here to find either Oblivion Stone or Ugin. And the best part about Impulse, and we don't even have to reveal. That one's a secret to Eric.
That one's nice. Impulse is 4 deep.
Yes.
But it's any card as opposed to Ancient Stirrings.
So it's worse, but it does act at instant speed, is blue for all your blue pitch stuff. So I think it's a smart include to have something like this that allows them to dig deeper and find things that are important.
Yeah, see, I'm just looking at the slew of different counter magic that they play. We got Condescend here as well. I was gonna say Commandeer, but that's more like the Bean side, the Logic Knot sort of like.
That's for
spells.
These Beans decks to beat these Tron decks because they're so big. And Ugin is exactly the card that I want against Eric here.
Yeah. There's a lot of juicy targets that you can hit with an Ugin, and that this damage with an empty board on Eric's side of the field could start being relevant. He's at 14 right now. Each uptick is going to deal 3 damage to him, if you don't have to spend a turn minusing it.
Yeah, we're clarifying here. We -2 to answer the Up the Beanstalk. Small brain fart, put a 2 down instead of being like, oh, I'm removing this 2 to activate. But Ugin currently at 5. You can see the Up the Beanstalk exiled out of here. What this Ugin is going to get to do is anytime Andre doesn't have a problem in play, Bolt goes upstairs. Anytime there's a problem, you can minus to remove it.
Right, and that puts Eric sort of on the back foot too. Do you I don't think you really chuck threats at Ugin, right? You kind of got to play.
It's really hard.
It puts you in a tricky spot for sure.
And it's going to be very important what happens to this Ugin because Andre's leftovers are a blue force that is uncastle with no card to pitch and 13 mana Emrakul.
We're at?
Delirium is 3. We have 8 mana, so we are 2 away from casting this 13 mana Emrakul.
Okay.
But we're not that far away.
Not that far away. We'll see if we can get there.
Can I talk about Tron beautification?
What does that mean?
Making your Tron deck as beautiful as you possibly can.
Oh, because of the full arts? I'm really admiring both land bases that we got on each side of the field here.
And for a while, there were these really cool full art expedition maps and double masters. But the gorgeous ones are upcoming in Ixalan.
Oh, yeah. Lots of map, exploring, caves, lots of thematic stuff there. Also, chalices or amulet vigors. Really, really pretty full arts in that set coming out for sure.
My to-buy list is quite long as Eric's Leyline Binding answers the Ugin, the card that is maybe the most difficult for them to answer once it's in play, We've drawn our pinpointed answer in this leyline binding. And now the hopes is that Andre doesn't find a way to remove the binding and get a fresh Ugin back,
Right.
because Andre used some game actions to like remove counters to interact with Eric. And if you can remove it from under the leyline binding, it's fresh and able to tick up. I remember in my Tron experiences in the past against 4-color, they would binding your Ugin, and then you'd find a way to blow it up, and you'd lightning bolt them. Then they'd answer your Ugin, and you'd answer that, and you'd bolt them again. I played my best burn impression using Ugin in Tron. Just being like, bolt, get it back, bolt, get it back, bolt.
I love it.
Tron fully assembled. We have additional pieces now, inching very closely to using this Emrakul.
And you mentioned delirium. Does it only, or is it reduced by?
Yes.
How exactly does Emrakul work?
So Emrakul is not technically a delirium card. It says that it's discounted 1 for each card type in your graveyard.
Oh, I see.
So I believe currently we have artifact, creature, instant. So our discount is currently 3. And what's interesting is Emrakul the Promised End used to be the mirror breaker for 4-color matches against 4-color. This used to be like the one of bullet that they had to like really take the match down. Andre now, as a deck already trying to prey on 4-color, also has the silver bullet.
I see. Would you say that Emrakul is sort of the fable of the mirror breaker, or?
No, I thought that was Kiki Jiki.
You said mirror breaker.
We said mirror breaker.
We said mirror breaker.
Oh, big Bring to Light for 5. Ooh, what are we on the hunt for?
I love the big hand tap stuff sideways.
Yeah, the big tap. You don't get that experience in Tron. You actually tap very little to make a lot.
Dakota's been making fun of me recently because I've got really long acrylic nails right now that I can't really grab cards.
Yes.
And so I kind of like paw at them with the nails.
That is a well-known experience on Magic TikTok of people with nails trying to pick up cards in Commander games.
It's so miserable. Just like if I drop one on the floor, it's gone. If
That's
it's hardwood, I no longer own that card. It is someone else's.
We're using this Bring to Light to get an Omnath. So we are not using it for a Valky. We're not using it for like Escape Shift or a Time Warp. We're not using this as a finisher or big value. This is saying we need to get mana. We need to bridge this mid game, and Omnath is one of the best tools for doing so.
Eric does have a grip full of cards in his hand, so maybe he already has one of those more powerful cards, and he's using Omnath to sort of bridge that gap into the late game finisher.
He's here.
Here comes the spaghetti monster herself.
What's lovely about this Emrakul the Promised End is we are going to gain control of Eric's next turn. Things that we can do. We can run the Omnath head first in Emrakul, killing it in combat. We're maybe able to find ways to use Eric's own removal spells to take care of this binding or his own Renin 6.
At the very least, you can tap him out so you can't play anything on your turn.
Right. Well, what's going to happen is after this extra turn, Eric then gets their turn back. So Emrakul is going to take an extra one, where Andre is going to ruin as much as he can, and then Eric's going to take their turn proper after that. Emrakul puts a little window that you can mess with their stuff, and then it's Eric's turn again.
I see.
But Andre is going to do the best they can to make it impossible, and Eric scoops it up.
Dang.
Indicating either I want to keep my hand hidden, or they notice just how bad it's going to get for them and want to save as much time for these incoming games 2 and 3.
Sure, yeah. Clock management can be a big part of it. 4-color is definitely slower than the other decks we've seen. What you giggling at there?
Andre's doing my favorite thing when you play Tron, which is look through your card board and go, well, it looked like they had a few extra cards in Spreading Seas that we may see them bring in, but let's take a peek here at 4-color.
Yeah, this is just an example list that we've grabbed off of MTG Goldfish. We don't have submitted deck lists for either of these players, unfortunately, but the potential stuff that Eric could be rocking with here is an Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, Obsidian Charmaz, an Emrakul the Promised End of his own, some Flusterstorms, Dovin's Vetoes, Chalice of the Voids, or some Besejus. What do you like in here?
Dovin's Veto, right? Your opponent is trying to play some big, nasty spells and be really difficult for you to deal with. Specifically, Karn the Great Creator and Ugins, and to an extent, even Oblivion Stones, right? They have a lot of cards that take away all of the setup you've been doing for the game. Dovin's Veto gives you an uncounterable answer against Bluetron, the deck that's trying to counter you. And Beseju. If it isn't here for blowing up Tron lands, then what's Beseju doing here?
Absolutely. And then stuff that we could take out, I guess. would you take out the Furies since there's no creatures to point them at? I guess you can point them at planeswalkers, but an Ugin starts off at such a high loyalty total.
Yeah, and it may be difficult because even at the top here, there's Obsidian Charmos. Totally forgot to Stone Rain on the 4/4 flyer.
Mm-hmm.
These are also on their way in, which makes it even more difficult to think. I've always liked Fury, right? It can remove those pesky walkers, dealing at least 4 damage to them, can be helpful. Something like, do we really need this one of Lightning Bolt? How helpful do you think Teferi's going to be, right? You know they're Bluetron. Maybe you want
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 Teferis in your deck, but don't want to get clogged on them. The hardest part, we always say, is like diluting your plan. This 4-color deck is already here to set up and control what their
Mm-hmm.
opponent is doing while slowly generating value. So I'm going to zero in on Solitude.
Sure. I
But
guess
it's
maybe that's a better choice because the body and the stats or the text box on Fury is still relevant. You know, it's a 3/3
right.
double striker.
The Swords to Plowshare and Solitude, I think, is the least helpful, but it's hard when you just lost to Emrakul the Promised End.
Right.
That Solitude is a very clean answer available to you, but so are your bindings. So you may just end up in a situation of what's better, this spell or the sideboard spell you're looking to replace it with. Do I shave 1 Teferi, 1 Omnath, a couple of Solitudes, just to get these Charmaws, these Vetoes in here? Finding like 5-ish cards to cut. Maybe you cut a fetch land for your Boseiju, kind of doing mana for mana.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see, but hard to comprehend what's not good here because this 4-color deck's meant to be all good cards.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at a quick Bluetron deck list as well. See what they might be working with there. We've got a pretty typical card board here. The blue cards in this sideboard do not mirror the ones
No.
that we saw in Andre's. He's rocking 3 copies of Spreading Seas.
Which I think are for other big mana mirrors. It's hard to break up 4 colors mana base.
Yeah.
When it's not like Cabal Coffers where if you turn that into an island, it's useless to them.
Mm-hmm.
This 4-color deck can definitely use an island. So maybe you do shut off their Stomping Ground, but they'll have use still for an island to help cast their spells. So I imagine Andre may have done what I said, where you pick up your sideboard and go, meh, set your sideboard back down and shuffle your 60.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we saw in match 2, technically, of round 1, a Blood Moon came down there, and May was still able to use red mana there. So yeah, the Spreading Seas giving usable blue mana isn't too relevant there. So probably no changes there. Let's get back down into the action though here, as we will be Andre on the play for game 2.
It'll be intriguing what Eric does in their early turns, because the one thing you know about Tron is it tries as fast as it can to skip the early turns.
Yeah.
And their access to cards like Ugin, Karn the Great Creator, their hand is none of the lands that you wanted, but it was O-Stone, Ugin, Karn the Great Creator. It's all payoff and no way to cast them.
A lot of hits there.
But we are
but you don't want all hits.
No. It's very interesting because the countering aspect of Bluetron, right, interacting with counter spells, is harder with 4-color because all of their spells are good. It's hard to pinpoint which one you want. I recommend Renin 6 so they don't Boseiju lock you.
Sure.
But the plan Andre may be looking for in these mulligans is to mimic the Green Tron plan, right? Try to figure out hands that can get Tron as fast as possible, and cards like Ugin or O-Stone that could really take away all of Eric's progress.
All right, let's see if this hand's going to be any better. We're already going to be mulling down to 5 here if we keep this hand. See, a Blast Zone, a Hall of Storm Giants?
A Remand, a One Ring.
Force of Negation.
I think this is a hard hand because it looks to be lacking. I believe we have a single Tron land in an Urza's Mine. I'm not the best at the double master copies.
Yeah, absolutely. Start with a Triumph on Eric's side here.
And we started with an island as the drop return. Alongside, in our hand is the One Ring and the Promo Manamo for untapping that One Ring. So Andre has a Remand to interact here in the early game, but we'll need to start truly piecing something together to keep up. And we see Eric setting up a Renin 6, which is the card I'm the most scared of when I am Bluetron, because an impending Boseiju could spell Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Bluetron with more basics typically, so allowing them to still play through a Boseiju being looped on them. But when you have 10, 13 mana cards in your deck, you still want access to the Tron lands.
Of course, yeah. That's what you've built your whole deck around.
We see Eric getting here a Steam Vent, so still lacking access to white mana, but can easily set that up to get their Leyline Bindings into Fairies online here on turn 3. And this is where the Bluetron interaction starts, right? You see that they didn't play a map or any other effect out, so you have to assume that they're either holding a Condescend or a Remand or a Fire Ice, something to interact with you here. That the only way you're going to find out is to just throw a spell out there and figure out how they're trying to interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like none. None spell.
Non-spell.
Eric understanding that that was an important turn for Andre, and now making Andre waste their 2 mana and not cast a spell that would have drawn a card or scryed for them, and instead understanding that they can use these turns to set up and put Andre in a really awkward situation.
Mm-hmm. It looks like he'll just play another land and pass it back to Eric.
And Andre now sitting on Remand and Condescend, so they do have access to these answers that Eric may or may not be trying to play around here with this patterning.
Mm-hmm. Eric has made incredible use of this Renin 6 so far. He's only played a single fetch all game.
Yes.
Just keeps reusing that Misty Rainforest.
The power of Renin 6 is it makes 2-land hands incredible, when 2-land hands are sometimes very risky.
Ooh, and here comes that Valky you were talking about earlier.
Hardcast 2-drop Valky to take a peek at the hand. Eric flipping it over, maybe something they never thought they'd have to do, only ever casting the backside. But we're going to use the front to enter the battlefield and take a peek at Andre's hand and exile a creature if you can find one. And then Valky could activate and become a copy of that creature. But this may just be an exploratory mission, just figuring out what does Andre have over there.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. I assume you get the backside of it from, is it Bring to Light?
Bring to Light will allow you to play the back for freezies. Andre's saying, you can't look at my hand. I'd like to remand that, please.
Also draws him a card, which I feel like is pretty important here.
Right. It's the balance of how much do I care about the spell you're casting versus how much do I need to cycle through to get to other cards in my deck.
Yeah.
So using this remand as its best time walk impression of you don't get your thing and I get closer to finding mine.
We will hold up a second here, though. His spells are still on the stack. Eric's going to fetch in response here.
Wondering if we have a way to fight back out of our sideboard against this remand. We could be hunting to Dovin's Veto the remand to resolve this Valky so we can take a peek. I have found in my experience playing Thoughtseize decks in multitudes of formats, you feel much safer if you know all the cards they have. This is just counterspell proper for that remand. That Eric is prioritizing knowing what they're up against. Being able to see these 4 cards can really help them play back against them.
There is actually a creature here for him to grab. There is a Subtlety sitting in Andre's hand.
A non-zero benefit here, right? Just allowing you to make sure Andre doesn't have that card kind of tucked under the Valky. If we feel the need later, we can turn Valky into this 3/3 flyer. But now we know that Andre's next turn is play this land and one of these 2 impactful 4-drops.
Yeah, both good choices here. I think, well, it depends on what he would grab with the card, obviously. Or you really want to get that ring going. You almost want to play it like a turn before you want it. Because you want to get it.
You want to get them cards.
What's the word? I'm doing the finger spin in the studio. No one can see me, but yeah.
You want to start the engine going.
Build up
Momentum.
those burden counters. Yeah, the momentum. Thank you.
Absolutely. And now is the time because Eric isn't truly set up with much. We have a 2/2 and a Renin 6 inching close to its own ultimate, but this allows us to know most of what's going on here with Andre.
I think Impulse is the draw for turn for Andre. We've got 4 mana.
Also,
we'll
a
cast
reason
the ring.
We want to get this ring set up because we do have the Manamo effect. So we can turn this ring into
Ooh.
even more cards to help us kind of hopefully skyrocket past what Eric's setting up.
Totally.
Because we'll draw this 1 card here, but next turn we can draw, for 2 mana, we'll draw 5 cards.
It's pretty good. I think they might be doing that in the backup match too. We'll see if we get a peek at that at some point.
The One Ring, it's spinning out here. There's just one, but not out there. As an important part we need to also be aware of is this Ren inching very closely to Ren's ultimate.
Mm-hmm. Remind me what that does? It does. It's a keyword.
Retrace.
Retrace. I was gonna say rebound. Okay, yeah.
Retrace allowing you, it gives your instants and sorceries retrace, allowing you to discard a land
Mm-hmm.
to cast that spell from your graveyard, but then it goes back there. If you discard another land, do it over and over again. Like you can imagine Eric next turn could ultimate that and turn every land in their hand into a counterspell, because that is the 1 card we have access to right now in our graveyard.
Yeah.
And if I'm Bluetron, I don't want to play against 12 more counterspells for this game.
Ooh, there's those Dovin's Vetoes sitting in his deck, so probably sided those in, like you mentioned earlier. Eric sitting in a spot that I feel like is pretty common for 4-color decks, has taken 10 damage
From their
from
mana
various
base.
fetches and shocks.
It was one of the most terrifying parts when I was playing 5-color creativity is you just dealt this much damage to set up your mana, and then you hope that that was good enough to get you back into the game. But Ring to Light.
Here comes a Bring to Light. Let's see what we grab here.
It feels like another Omnath or Time Warp.
Oh.
Eric is taking the momentum of the game back. They're saying, we are looking now to Ren in 6 ultimate with our Time Warps.
Oh, boy. Okay.
If we can, this upcoming turn, we could ultimate the Ren in 6.
Yeah.
And then if we can play another Ren in 6, using that Ren in 6 to pick up whatever land we might be discarding, we're very close to Andre not taking another turn this game.
I was about to say, you can go infinite with it, right?
You sure can. And we see this Ren going away. We are a mana away from new Ren Time Warp, but we are very close. Because this turn, we could discard a land in our hand and cast the Time Warp.
Mm-hmm.
And then that allows us to play a land this turn and next turn, get to that 7 mana threshold to play a Ren and the 5 for the looping. So we are very close. But if Andre never gets another turn, Andre will forever have protection from everything from this ring. So at some point,
because it doesn't fall
until Andre has a turn.
Oh.
So at some point in our infinite turns, we'll need to feel safe enough to give the turn back to Andre so that they can lose protection so that we can finally kill them.
I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. Because it falls off, I assume, during like upkeep.
Yeah, because I believe it says until the beginning of your next turn. So
Oh,
you have
I
to
see.
which checks in, I think, untap specifically as the beginning of the turn. But here's the new Ren, plus our mana. This is the engine.
Oh man! All right. So we'll see how deep Eric will dig here. Exactly what kind of board state he goes to assemble. We got a bunch of different creatures that we can throw on the board there.
And the question is, how much will Andre make them play out?
That's a very good point as well. We talked about clock management.
Andre's checking the pieces.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean you can go forever? Very important to check. Like, absolutely trust your opponent. They're saying, I have piece A, B, and C, and I'm going to keep doing this. But check the pieces. Make sure that makes the puzzle they're telling you that it does.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just to like keep your opponent honest, but it's also to figure out exactly what you need to do to win the next game.
Exactly, right? Especially here in this game, too, if it does go to Eric taking these turns, you want to understand what's going on to be ready for game number 3. Andre's saying, I don't need to make you do it. We'll scoop it up. Let's figure this out in game number 3.
Yeah, exactly. You want to figure out how it works. Like, oh, this is going to utilize your graveyard a lot? Okay, I know that as information for next time.
Do I need to utilize finding a Tormod script at some point? Maybe. Oh, do I need to think about this? But Eric really worked towards an exact plan in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Realized, I have all the pieces set up. If I do this, and the next turn I can do it this way. Slowly plotting towards it and then continuing.
I saw some spreading seeds in Andre's deck as he spread it out there. We said that it probably wouldn't be too useful in this matchup, but once again, we are not the pilots of these decks, and they probably know better than us.
Turn a Triumph into an island. I get it.
Yeah.
Maybe you think Eric also has that Manamo ring synergy. Turn off that Manamo.
You know what you can't cast with an island?
Ren and 6.
Ren and 6.
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even try. They
No.
won't even let you.
No. That's got 2 colored mana symbols that are not blue.
Andre, we on the hunt for that big Tron draw. Eric really wants to draw an opening Dovin's Veto.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever Andre's payoff is, I want to answer it. I want my opening hand to have a prismatic ending to eat their map. I want to have my Dovin's Veto to eat their payoff. I want to hope. Putting Tron on the play, I don't feel safe.
We're waiting for folks to shuffle up here, though. We'll check in with you, chat. How are you guys doing tonight? We're glad to have you. If you haven't yet already, make sure to hit that follow button and get notifications every time we go live. It helps us know that you like what we're doing. It helps support this stream so we can keep providing you more great modern coverage.
Yes, modern.
Woo, modern! Is it your favorite format?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also the only format I play.
You played a little bit of Legacy last week.
Oh, yeah, I lied. Sorry. Legacy's really fun.
Legacy, I feel like I need to get more capable at it first before I decide if I like it or not. Because right now, I don't have a lot of fun with it because I'm not too good at it. But I think if I tried it a bit more, I would enjoy it more. Oh, thanks for the compliment, Sam. We're missing you here tonight. You did great last week on coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Crushed it. 4-0'd, right?
Yeah, Hammer does that sometimes. Hammer also sounds like an incredible choice. In these arms races of what's going on in Modern right now, I love a just kill 'em dead strategy.
Sure, yeah. We had 2 great Hammer players last week. I used our other Hammer player in the thumbnail for Twitter, Thomas Holland III.
Oh, okay. While we're in the in-betweens here, feature match, round 1. We chose 2 wonderful matches. Everyone enjoyed them. They loved it. I'm looking at the results of the round. All the way at the bottom, we missed the in-universe Marvel clash of Thomas Holland playing Ryan Reynolds out there.
Did we really? Oh, no.
Like, we could have got the meme on camera, and we didn't even spot it until long after it was done.
Oh, that's okay. I think we had some pretty good matches.
I agree. But meme value sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great screenshot right there.
Get these players shuffling up. Their opening hands, so important in matchups like this, because a little stumble here or there, your opponent can get very ahead of you when you're both trying to build this machine.
Looking at Andre's hand there, we do have some lands and spells. He's on... I thought I saw a die on his side of the field. Eric has mulligan at least once.
Yeah, Eric telling us about this 6. Looks like Andre's putting back their blast zone, keeping their 6. Eric also their 6, and we're off to the races.
Andre bottomed a blast zone on his last mulligan as well. I feel like it's probably not that useful in this matchup.
Yeah, and I believe Greentron fully cut blast zone from their mana base. Not even there anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But then anytime I debate that, I see it just like completely demolish like a Hardened Scales player.
Sure, yeah.
You're like, oh, maybe you should put it back. And Andre here, I saw drawing those spreading seas, having a pile of pitch magic and counter magic set up to try to stop whatever Eric is trying to present for them.
Play that Triumph. Here I go.
If they get a non-blue Triumph, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the perfect target. I believe they were on Rogren Zagoth Triumph, and here's Rogren.
That's Jeskai, right?
That is correct, Amundo. Blue, red, white. This deck seems to be sharing its blue Triumphs to allow it to cast both double blue for the counterspell in their deck and green-red for the Ren and 6 in their deck, and putting their blue mana and their white mana on 2 different Triumphs for Teferi. The mana-based math of making sure you can cast all your spells in these big 4-color decks is difficult. As long as someone else figures it out, you're good to go. I have had many dinners after an NRG where people truly spent an hour at dinner debating the single Triumph their deck should be playing.
Oh, gosh.
So we're serious out here about mana bases.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely matters. It's absolutely relevant. Not a conversation that I can add to too much. but I'll sit there and listen to you, for sure.
And I always tell to players who are looking to play these like 3 and 4 color like binding decks, as we see Boseiju answering a Tron land, very important here.
Yeah, can't counterspell a channel.
Right. I recommend players to understand what I call their fetch patterns,
Mm-hmm.
which is knowing I need to find this land alongside this one. I want to find them in this order to make your deck hum, right? You want to understand in a lot of decks sometimes there's Triome A that you get 90% of the time on your first fetch.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that if I draw this, I need to get B so that I can make sure to cast these spells. You want to just learn the pattern and the flow of how your deck brings everything together, because you might end up in a situation where you're playing a very powerful deck but wondering why it feels like it's hiccuping, and it may just be the pattern of how you have your lands.
Absolutely. It's something that I've never tried before. I generally play a lot of basic land heavy decks. As you see George creep up behind us there in the camera. But something I'd like to try out at some point. It's definitely an area of Magic I haven't explored a lot, just because it is a little intimidating to me, but I think is important to learn as a player.
Finding area for growth, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's even hard to like really truly figure out. It's like Eric opened on Rogren Triumph basic for us, like understanding the ways that they want to set it up, where this is a game unlike the first one where we took like 11 damage off our mana base. We've taken 1 off our mana this time to just set it up in a slow way. This binding answered by this pitched Force of Negation to protect the One Ring.
Mm-hmm.
This One Ring, pivotal to how this match will go, allowing
absolutely got to keep up with this beans draw.
Yes, Tron now having access to additional cards for pitching, finding the mana that they need, really setting up shop here. I had a local player recently played Tron. They're like, oh, my rings are in my other deck and someone's borrowing them, so I want to have them for today. And truly felt behind in a deck that used to be so big and powerful. You just want all the cards from the ring now to get the engine truly humming.
Absolutely. We'll fetch and shock here on Eric's side of the board as Andre just played an expedition map on his turn, leaving 4 different lands untapped, 2 cards in hand.
The arms race for cards begins now. Eric making sure, even through deck building and just how they're going to play this game, making sure as much as what they cast will draw cards off this beanstalk, and Andre doing the classic ring. With 19 life to spare for this ring too, you have a lot of cards available to you before you worry about your life total.
Oh, yeah.
And this was all in response to this map, and we were Dovin's vetoing this expedition map, worried about our blue Tron player fully assembling the Tron half of their mana base.
Yeah, and it goes to show you just how important is assembling that we would counter a quote-unquote simple, one drop.
But it's definitely hard to make that decision because they have this one ring going.
Mm-hmm.
We use our mana and our time to answer the map, but they draw all these cards and they just find it naturally. So you can see there was a lot of back and forth on coming to that decision, but understanding its importance, making sure to get that rid of. And Omnath, an important card once again.
I was about to say, it took a bit of bravery to really tap out all of our mana for that Omnath, and gets quickly punished with this subtlety.
And this is a hard cast subtlety. So in matchups like this, sometimes it's hard to stick a threat and then protect it through the game. I love subtlety allowing you to, at flash speed, sneak it in, answer what they have, but now you have this card that can end the game that you can protect with your actions for the rest of the game. So now we have this subtlety that's going to be able to attack for 3 over and over while we hide behind our ring, draw all of our counter magic, and start our big mana strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw a Ragavan swing in, 7 times
at least
in round 1, and this subtlety is set with an empty board to do a little bit of the same. It flies as well, which will go over a few of Eric's creatures.
We have it now alongside this expedition map. Eric put all that effort in last turn to answer a map. Andre has a new one, is now going to crack it, assemble Tron, and now we have big mana alongside big cards alongside our 3/3 flyer.
I saw we have a Karn in hand as well, so we have mana to grab to play a Karn and cast a couple of the things in our sideboard as well. We'll see how he utilizes his mana exactly, though, in a second here.
I want to greedily put Sundering Titan into my hand and have it ready to destroy them next turn.
I feel like your answer is always Sundering Titan.
It's Quad Stone Rain here. All 4 of these are gone.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know who's also gone? Eric, if I do that.
And I'll try it again. That Omnath will come back down.
Big no to this Omnath. I had played Tron against 4-color, and they defeated me with 0 lands in play because they untapped with their Omnath and played a fetch, made 6 mana, and was able to just remove what was going on while having the Omnath engine going.
Oof.
So you may feel safe, but not yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to condescend this Omnath, get our Scry 2 alongside this Counterspell-esque effect.
It looks like we got both
Double
on top.
keep.
Ooh, that would have me quaking in my boots if I
Yes.
saw that.
And this One Ring going to draw 4 cards, just getting us as deep as can be, drawing another tower. Why not get as much mana as possible?
Do you know what this land is at the top?
The Field of Ruin.
Oh, what is that? Time Spiral Remastered retro
Yes,
border?
yes, it is.
Oh.
Hey, we have Karn with 8 mana available afterwards.
Oh man, what are we
Oh,
grabbing?
look who it is. It's Masterpiece Thundering Titan.
Wow, got the pimped version too.
We just put Thundering Titan over Eric's face, but Eric was doing the subtle nod, yep. We have a perfect separation. This forest is green, the Sacred Foundry is red, the Rogran Chime is white, and the Watery Grave can be blue or black. We have all 4 of these covered.
We'll go, I want that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, please.
And if you're purposeful and make sure you choose Rogran or the Watergrave as the island, you are not forced to choose one of your own islands.
Oh.
Gone. We chose one of our own islands for fun.
You sure?
We don't need these. I only need one of these. I have this 3/3 flyer and this 7/10 Sundering Titan.
Thank you for saying the stats on that. It's always so hard for me to remember the non symmetrical stat lines.
The reveal of all these awesome cards. An incredible looking hand, but my boy Sundering Titan.
Yeah, I'll take it home there for Andre. We'll win in game 3 against Eric. We'll check on our backup match here and see if we can get them slid over. While we do that, why don't you head on over to nerdragegaming.com and pick up some fantastic singles, any one of the ones that you've seen tonight, or any of the other thousands that we have in our inventory. If there is one that we just so happen to not have, add it to your wish list and get notified immediately when we list it. We're, of course, listing new cards every single day, so check back often. We also have pre-orders for all sorts of goodies up there. We've got Lorcana boxes. We've got Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We also offer pre-registration for all of our events as well. We sold out for our Pokemon 1K that's happening this week, and we will be streaming that as well, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be streaming the first local with Paradox Rift cards as well tomorrow night, so check in on that. Our backup match is going to be Brian Tepper versus Danny Petrona. I don't know if you've heard of either of these two players. They play often at our store, and they're very good, so we're excited to get them over here, though. They haven't reported, so I don't think they've finished. We'll check for just a second here. We'll talk about the NRG series. I don't know if you heard about them, but it is a competitive Magic the Gathering tournament that we run. Our very last event of the year is in Madison, so join us Thanksgiving weekend for that. We've got a lot of prize money to give away, a lot of at-large bids to be won by the people on our leaderboard. So head on over to twitch.tv/NRG series and make sure to follow them there, or join us in Madison. I will be there. Our producer Bryce will be there. A lot of the store employees will be there selling you cards, making sure the stream is being run smoothly, and making sure everyone has a fantastic Magic experience. If you have any questions about the event, make sure to check out our Discord. That's where you can find teammates, carmates, any sort of stuff to join you at the NRG series, ask questions of our tournament organizer or any of the judge staff that we have, find new friends, ask what deck you should play, all sorts of good stuff there. So check out that QR code in the bottom right hand corner. I think we're just about slid over here, so we're gonna give it just a second. Thank you folks so much for your patience. How's everyone doing tonight? What other matchups do you want to see on stream? I know Ponza was a big hit. I asked on Twitter earlier We've got a bunch of other stuff in the room tonight. Let's take a peek. Grixis Shadow, Titan Shift. Scan we're not putting on, I promise that. Blue-black Ring Control. Oh, this As Foretold deck I mentioned as well we haven't seen yet. Blue-white Spirits. Some more Murktide. Any of that sound good to you? To you guys? All right, and Dom is back in the studio, and we're gonna tune in. I think this match was in progress, which is why it took a little bit longer to slide him over.
Yes, we have a 4-color Brian playing control alongside the Ring against Yawgmoth. So I waited for the most toned down, paused screen that we could. It was very little happening. They were very generous. Shifted this over real quick for y'all.
All right, and we're back in the action here. Do we know what game we're on?
Nope.
Okay, we'll get that figured out.
That's a great question. I was out there monitoring very closely. Like, this is exactly the copy of what the board state was a moment ago. Brian and Danny were very generous about making sure we could get it all to work perfectly.
All right, so let's take a look at what we've got so far. We've got a Stranglework guy sitting under a Leyline Binding on Brian's side of the field, an Orcish Bowmaster, and a 2/2 Orc army from Danny. A lot of lands in play, though, so we're in the hefty middle ground of the game here as an Up the Beanstalk will hit the field.
But a Bowmaster already in play for Danny, a little ping upstairs. And the important part is Brian is at 9. Danny is pressuring. Already with
and a Grist as well, I
Yes.
failed to notice. Very, very relevant here.
We have 4 damage already in play between this army and the Bowmaster proper. And Grist allowing us to churn out 1/1s might be just enough to kind of peck through for this last 9 points of our control opponent. Beans.
We do have Tepper's deck list, I believe, so let me grab that and see exactly what he's working with.
We have a Teferi Time Raveler bouncing the Orc army, just completely removing the power that is this token. But then Teferi draws a card, putting a Bowmaster trigger on the stack, which gave us the 1/1, which shot the Teferi, but then fire splits 1/1 and clears the Bowmaster board.
Wow. Great turn there. Good, really good sequencing as well.
Yes. I love players who take a step back, figure out the full turn, and then you can see that they execute part A, and their opponent goes to do something, they're like, BCD, I'm just gonna answer all of this, and they're like, oh, got it.
For my next trick.
Yes. But it's very helpful when playing these complicated decks to be able to fully assemble this is what I want this turn to look like and go piece by piece by piece as the Soul Cauldron has entered the stack.
Yeah, we saw it do great work in round 1 in a Hardened Scales deck, and Yawgmoth is the other deck. Can you also grab something from Brian's side of the field with it?
You can indeed. But I already see we have our Haywire Mite in our graveyard. That's the top toy that we can see and is the one we've chosen.
Yeah, that can get rid of that Leyline Binding.
Correct. We could get back our Strangleroot guys if we wanted to. It's so cool in Yawgmoth, the fact that Undying is already a part of your internal engine, but if you sacrifice these creatures and they come back with a 1/1 counter, they then gain the ability from under the Soul Cauldron. It's one of the joys of Magic design when it's something already fits so perfectly with what was already going on.
Yeah. I was talking to a player the other day who plays a different TCG, a much younger one. It was how do with 30 years of cards, it gets pretty complicated, right? How do you find sort of the pieces that fit together? And I'm like, a lot of the people designing cards have played the game as well and have the brain and the card knowledge to be able to design cards that can build upon the foundational cards of the last 30 years.
I think the part that also helps the most is the cream rises to the top. I don't actually know that many of the cards.
No, definitely.
I'm aware of the ones that everyone else is aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pull cards for order sometimes, and I'll be like, I have never heard of
this.
Never heard of this card before in my life.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Brian is currently Shardless agenting into finding an Up the Beanstalk, but we bypassed 2 Elder Deep Fiends.
Oh yeah, that's the name of the deck I forgot to mention. It's Deep Fried Beans.
Deep Fried Beans. I love Elder Deep Friend. Okay, it is powerful.
Yeah, let's get it up on the screen here because I wasn't aware of this card
Mhm.
yet until the other day. It's originally from Eldritch Moon.
Yes.
It's got Flash and Emerge, which synergizes with Evoke Elementals. Since it has Flash, you can sacrifice them in response to reduce that Emerge cost.
Or we can sacrifice our Bloodbraid Elf or Shardless that we don't need anymore.
Exactly. When you cast a spell, tap up to 4 target permanents.
AKA all of your opponent's lands. This card is so powerful that I have debated it in, you guessed it, Tron.
Sure.
It is an 8-mana payoff that could, at flash speed, fully tap out your opponent. Sometimes you just need a turn, and this big 5/6 can also give you that turn.
Dude, I'm just enthralled by this art. It's really
It's
sucking me in.
gorgeous.
That is great.
That's an Elder Deep friend. It's friend-shaped.
It's friendship.
I have to comment, because of the exact glare that we have right now, you can see how dirty the sleeve is.
Oh gosh, yeah. Brian told me that he bought a ton of these sleeves a long time ago. I think they might actually be out of print.
Oh my.
And cuz I've asked him before, like, why'd you pick like this color, like a, you know,
It's the one I have a bunch of.
Yep, that's just, he decided long ago that is the color of sleeve that I want, and that is the color of sleeve I will have forever.
Oh, Strangleroot and another of the Agatha Soul Cauldron.
Oh man.
You thought you answered them? Well, they're all back. And now we get to eat a Yawgmoth that's in our graveyard. And this bug becomes Yawgmoth, and we can sacrifice the Strangleroot. It'll come back to Undying, and then it could be a Yawgmoth too now.
Throw that doctor in the soup.
Throw the doctor in the soup.
And we'll get a -1. The black die is a -1/-1 counter there from the Yawgmoth.
And now our Strangleroot comes back from Undying. Both of our creatures having +1 counters, meaning both have the activated abilities from Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. Dryad Arbor. Danny and I are on the Dryad Arbor team. This card is still fun and worth it. I love being able to turn my fetch land into a sacrifice for Yawgmoth.
Yeah. A lot of different pieces, and you want to have utility offered in all of them.
Here we use the Yawgmoth ability, sacrifice the Dryad Arbor to remove a counter from Strangleroot, and now we can sacrifice Strangleroot to a Yawgmoth effect, bringing it back from Undying, and making it back into a Yawgmoth again. A very slow plotting way to remove the 2/2 Shardless Agent from the field.
Yeah, and now Brian doesn't have nothing on his side of the field, though. When he untaps and is able to cast some spells, I think he's going to be able to rebuild pretty readily.
And what'll be important is we will want to answer this Teferi now while we can, in hopes that Brian doesn't have a Leyline Binding or Solitude to counter back here.
Oh, right. The Strangleroot has haste, right?
Oh, it does indeed.
I mean, if he untaps. He is at 9.
There is.
Do you think we're seeing a Court of Calling blood artist in our future here?
Oh, is that the truth? Does it work?
I
don't know. We sacrifice the. I think we're a creature short.
I forget the exact pieces that we need. Don't you need?
It's much harder now that Strangleroot can become the Yawgmoth. Oh yeah, we can sacrifice the wall to remove from the Strangleroot. The Strangleroot will become its normal self, which then can be sacrificed. But then we don't have a creature. We don't have enough food for doing it. We don't have enough to sacrifice the Yawgmoth because we don't have a second Undying creature to truly.
You can't do the dance with, right?
Right, yeah. We only have one dance partner so far. But Strangleroot guys can still enter the red zone. And that's to the dome. That's 3 damage coming in. Right, we have them going down to 5. This, alongside this Grist and this Insect, we're mostly just trying to create enough threats that we can plink through for enough damage to remove Brian from the game. And this fetch land's going to help as we're down to 4.
Yeah, absolutely. That attack did put Brian into exact lethal with the Insect and the Strangleroot guys on the field. I'm checking for the chatter that was asking. Spirits did not win. They are just 1-1, so we could put them on the backup maybe. They were asking. I was while you were gone. I was like, oh, what do you guys want to see on? I don't think I've seen Spirits in Pioneer. I wonder what additional pieces they get when you put it into Modern.
Cavern of Souls, Drug Skull Captain.
I don't know.
Cavern of Souls, Drug Skull Captain.
Oh, Cavern of Souls? Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good card.
Soon to be legal for the Pioneer one.
I know, very exciting.
Brian, you need to pull together blockers. Damage.
Oh, there's one.
Yep. Not only a blocker, but a source of life gain. And I believe our fetch was uncracked, but we fetched it at the end of our turn.
Mhm.
So very important to notice this. Go for Throat on Omnath. Oh, Teferi Implant. Oopsie whoopsie. Just kidding.
Ooh.
I'd want to go for the Throat it too. But this is maybe the exact downfall to not attacking down the Teferi is we couldn't unlock the instants in our hand.
Right.
But it's hard when your opponent was so close to being dead, and now they're going to try to pull away, play a fetch land on their turn, pass back to Danny, crack this fetch, suddenly turning this Omnath into a gain 7 from being just down at 4 life. Tepper with it looks like maybe 2 or 3 cards in hand. No triggers from Beans from this Omnath. He's still too itty-bitty to trigger the Beans.
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences between the 4-color deck that we saw in our first feature match of this round and Brian's deck.
I spoke with it was Eric, who was in our feature match for the beginning of this, and they said that this Cascade version is incredibly mid, and they don't like it at all.
Really?
And it makes, they're playing the 4-color with like counter spells and much more of the interactive package. Still excited by Omnath and Beanstalks, but not looking to spend all the slots on this big like cascading style package.
For sure, yeah. Brian's even got a one of Virtue of Knowledge in
They
here
love
as
that
well.
card.
Brian, big fan of it for sure.
And it does double trigger Beans and double trigger Cascade.
Yeah, it's fun. Magic is fun.
You could use it to copy your Elder Deep Fiend trigger.
Oh man, tap 8 permanents.
Tap all
Whoa!
8. Remove all of them. Brian, in the tank for a while, has decided I would like to crack this fetch land now, saying that I have a use for all of the mana incoming.
Yeah, we've got 4 untapped lands here. Let's take a look at what he could be throwing down. We've got Furies and Solitudes and Elishnorn.
Remember, we're also using this
Virtue
Omnath
of
trigger.
Knowledge.
So we're up to 8 total mana now, thanks to the second Omnath trigger. And using it for a hard cast. Oh, emerge off the Omnath for this Deep Fiend. Double trigger your Beans. Targets? Yes, tap the Grist. Yes, Brian. Tap the Grist. You can tap a Planeswalker, it just doesn't mean anything.
I'm trying so desperately to think of something that could be relevant for. Sarkon? I don't know what Sarkon does.
If somehow this Yawgmoth deck had a mono-red Sarkon to turn their walkers into dragons, it would matter. You are absolutely correct, production. If somehow this Yawgmoth deck had Luxior Giada's Gifts, it was looking to use it on their Grist, but we are
if
not
this turned
in
into a
this
commander
way.
game
Yes.
and we were playing with Luxior.
Dude, Luxior is sweet. You can find off Urza Saga.
Yeah, totally.
You can turn your Karn Liberate into a 10-10 attacker or whatever. All these things have been tapped. We've drawn the cards. The Deep Fiend has resolved. And our remaining 3 mana seems to have a use for. Elder Deep Fiend is sick.
It's cool. This is the first game I've ever seen with it, and I'm digging it for sure.
Casting a Solitude. Trigger Beans.
And we'll target. I think you want to get this Strangleroot Geist out of here, yeah.
Yeah, the Undying creatures are at a premium right now.
Absolutely. He's got so many lands on his side of the field, the Wall of Roots isn't really a relevant grab.
No, but and all of these creatures with exactly the +1 counters, the white ones, all being Yawgmoths, we do not need this Undying creature sticking around.
Right.
Danny can do the dance to remove this Strangleroot from being targetable by Brian's Solitude here, removing it and bringing it back for something else, but it takes a lot of our resources in order to do so.
So what exactly was he doing there in response to the Solitude? He drew a card.
We drew a card by using a Yawgmoth ability to sacrifice the Wall of Roots to remove a counter from the Strangleroot Geist.
Steferi's in play is making it a little hard to respond, though.
And then I believe we sacrificed the Strangleroot to another Yawgmoth ability, but didn't have a way to fully remove all of the counters, so it's going to the graveyard proper and will not return to Undying. And we are passing it back.
I believe this grist is at 6 if I can read that loyalty counter correctly, which puts
Talk to me about an ultimate. Danny, check that graveyard.
Yeah, getting pretty close there.
Danny, how many? Dryad Arbor's in there. Strangleroot Geist is in there.
Oh, the ultimate's only 5.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
we're there. Danny might be now trying to figure out how to sacrifice a bunch of their creatures. We had a Young Wolf in hand too. We were very close to starting the dance. The dance meaning 2 Undying creatures passing a counter back and forth to allow the Yawgmoth engine to draw you cards at the cost of 1 life, then finished off with a Blood Earth style effect. Here, we're going to use this to sacrifice a Young Wolf to allow us to pick off this Solitude. It is very hard because Yawgmoth proper is stuck in the stew, but all of these +1/+1 counters means they have the activated ability to sacrifice a creature and put a -1 counter and draw a card.
I think I might have seen another Yawgmoth in Danny's hand.
If I'm Danny, I want to figure out a way to get all of these into the graveyard.
I see that little red halo peeking its head out.
The red halo of the big art way of circling a character so it stands out in the artwork. The Deep Fiend has been gone for the throat.
It's colorless, but it is not an artifact.
No, it is not. And now, big combat. The Grist may win post-combat now.
Yeah, he's got his graveyard stacked all on top of each other, so I can't quite see. No, he just plussed it.
And then we activated Yawgmoth's ability to discard to proliferate.
Oh, I always forget about the proliferate on there.
But this means the insect's going to get in for 4 damage, and the Grist ultimate will kill the opponent. So Brian right now is in Solitude or Bust territory. And that sure looks like we took the damage. Ult the Grist, and that's the game.
Wow. All right, in game 3, Daniel take down Brian. Yawgmoth will win and advance to 2-0. That will be our last match. Yeah, they were the last outstanding match, so we'll be right back with round 3 features. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
See you soon.
Welcome back, folks. We're in round 3 of 4 here for Wednesday Night Modern. We got George and Reed, another 4-color Beans deck, but we got Titan Shift on the right. Dom had to step out for a second, so we got Bryce in the booth. Bryce.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right, I guess.
Welcome in. For folks that don't know, Bryce is usually our producer. He handles all the switching and the deck lists and all that jazz. And he stepped into the booth for just a moment here as Reed will start us off with a tapped Sheltered Thicket? Is that what it is, or just a Stomping Grounds?
It is one of the tap lands I cannot remember the names of.
I think it's Sheltered Thicket. Yeah. Reed has played Titan Shift for as long as I can remember, and George is amping up from a blue-white deck to 4 full colors, sans black. We'll start off with the Renin 6 here. And putting that fetch land back into his hand. There's a Stomping Grounds proper from Reed. He'll have that entered tapped and pass it back. Let's see if we can grab George's deck list here.
True.
He's rocking something probably a little bit similar to what our other Beans players are playing, though.
I mean,
he always has a little bit of sauce.
Yeah, it's just some type of control with some other cards.
Narset probably. The likely candidate. Oh, flashing a Triumph in his hand there. I guess that's why he grabbed a basic. And Dryad of the Elysian Grove will be the play from Reed, and then that additional land drop as well. Start assembling the pieces for Scape Shift and Valakut. Valakut, of course, checks for mountains that you have, and Dryad gives all of his lands each basic land type.
Seems like George is just running out of time. Like, he's not doing anything. He's just chilling.
Well, I assumedly probably got some counter magic in his hand. He's got a good number of them in his deck. As Casey chimes in and says, yeah, stock 4-color, plus some Narsets, and a Days Undoing, of course. Gotta have that one of Days Undoing. Although the most recently submitted... No, okay, it is. It's tucked under the one of Cosmic Rebirth.
Cosmic Rebirth.
Yeah, that's the Aftermath card that grabs stuff out of your graveyard.
Oh, the really good regrowth.
Mm-hmm. The ring will come down on the field, though, giving George protection from everything, so that Dryad can't crash into his face, but it can take down the Ren and 6. Not going to be super relevant here, though. Reed's got his own ring on his side of the field. Not on the side of his field, but in his hand. Good on Reed to pick up that he can attack the Planeswalker. I feel like some players sometimes forget that that's a thing. Protection from everything. Sometimes you say, oh, I can't do anything. And we'll cast a card here. I don't know what this is either, George. Can I take a peek at it, please?
Oh man, what is the
Cartographer's Survey? Is that, I think, how I read it? Can you pull that up for us?
Yeah,
Cartographer's Cartograph. Yeah, Cartographer's Survey. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 land cards from among them onto the battlefield. Tap. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order.
That is a new one for me.
Yeah, it's from Crimson Vow. So we've got the Valakut in play now, as well as a basic looks like. And we're going to be able to start hitting George for 3 damage per land here. Got this fetch still sitting uncracked on the far left of Reed's side of the board. We're going to pitch a Ren and 6 to Fury, though, and take care of this Dryad, which will relock the Valakut. In response, we're going to fetch and at least get some value first. Reed will shuffle up here. George will begin his turn. I'm trying to see what he's got in his hand here. I don't see too much. Rocking the sick Flex Slot hoodie, though. Y'all should check it out. George's newest website, flexslot.gg. Build all of your deck lists there. Get in all your sideboard guides. Lots of goodies. He's been working really hard on it and adding new features. You can check his Twitter for information on that.
Have you gotten the chance to mess around with it?
A little bit. When he added the feature that you can really play with the visual layout of a deck list, so like when you have awkward 3-ofs or 2-ofs, and like Goldfish sort of just does whatever with it, George's site allows you to really like fine-tune it and make it really nice looking, or on the flip side, make just the ugliest deck list that you can ever possibly imagine and just throw it into total chaos, which is also fun to do.
Oh yeah, that's what we love here. Ugly deck lists.
Oh yeah.
Especially them 61s.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think Dom's name in the Discord has like 61 card specialist on it, and everyone's been trying to do that as much as possible. George probably rocking like, I don't know, 70 cards. That's like his thing to do. As we'll activate the ring there and draw a bunch of cards. And here comes a Teferi. Bounce that ring back to your hand and draw a card. Reset the burden triggers on that.
It's a very, very slow-paced game. It's just waiting and waiting until you want to pop off or you think you can go through counterspells.
Yeah, Reed's kind of got a toe a little dance here. I think he did it pretty well. Unfortunately, George had the Fury that answered the Dryad. Fury, a card that doesn't really fit my mind of a card that fits George's play style.
Honestly, Fury's just a really good control card.
I know, it's just a really good card. As Reed will play his own ring here. I know, when I was talking about cutting it from the other 4-color deck, I really wanted to take it back because I was like, that card is just too good to cut.
I don't think you ever cut Fury if you have a chance.
Mm-hmm. It does so much. It's good even just after it hits the board as well.
So what is your favorite elemental?
My favorite of the five, or do you like
Of the five.
of the five?
Of the
Okay.
pitch elementals.
I haven't really played too many of them. Real cast a search for tomorrow here. You got subtlety, grief, fury, endurance. I feel like endurance is maybe the most easily forgotten. Solitude probably. Solitude's the one I've played the most since I play Legacy D&T. That's where you're casting that card a little bit.
Solitude's a good pick. I mean,
What about you?
I'm more of an endurance person. I just love
That makes sense.
the art is amazing.
Oh yeah.
But also like
The regular one or the
the showcase,
borderless?
the borderless for sure.
Yeah.
They both look clean, but that borderless is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And up the beanstalk.
Up the beanstalk, draw a card there. Well, see, George hasn't put really any threats down on his side of the field, though. That isn't unusual for him. He did have the Fury earlier that was just evoked. So no creatures as of yet that have stayed.
I just really want to know what he's holding on to. Like he's just doing nothing.
He's doing some stuff. I wouldn't say he's doing nothing.
Fair, but like
It's just
I want to see
not-
some action.
Yeah, no bombs hitting the field on his side. Draw. Ooh, I think that was 2 lands off the ring draws there. I think we accidentally flipped a card, so we're going to give it a quick shuffle.
You know, the quick fixes at locals.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any issue with that at all. Reed is looking for a couple things here. He's got this Valakut on the field already, so he needs a way to make all of his lands into mountains with, say, another Dryad, or I think he might have a Blood Moon would turn off his own Valakut.
Yeah, no blood moons. Just keep that as far away from Reed as possible. But he might just need a couple more mountains. It's hard to tell through the glare, but I don't know what his mountain count is at.
1, 2. The Sheltered Thickets counts as one as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. You need 7 for Valakut. This red and 6 is going to get logic knotted, though. And we'll, of course, draw off up the beanstalk as well.
I didn't think Up the Beanstalk would be this good of a card, to be honest.
Like when it first came out?
Yeah, when I first heard of the card, I was like, it's all right. It's going to see some commander. Oh, Prime Evil Titan. Let's go.
There we go. That'll get you a little bit closer there. Now that logic knot's out, George might not have any more counter spells left. He's got 3 mana with this fetch potentially available here.
Come on, let the Titan resolve. Have some fun. Yes.
Come on, George.
I saw the
Let him
hand.
do
Let's
it.
go. So we just go grab 2 mountains. Say what's up. Oh, Valakut in the mountain?
Another Valakut.
Seems pretty good.
Deal 6. Put you to 2. All right. Play land for turn. And a wide-eyed George.
Are you dead? You don't have anything?
I think all of us forgot that he hadn't played land for turn. And, I mean,
Oh, he's going to tap some mana.
you can't respond to the land being played, but you can respond to the triggers on Valakut.
Yeah, you can respond to the double bolts right now,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't help him.
Yeah. Gonna scoop it up, and we're gonna go to a game 2 here. Let's grab George's deck list and see exactly what he's working with here. Does it fit on the screen?
Never.
No, of course not. How many cards is it exactly? Do you know?
Oh, man, it is a whole 80 card
Sheesh.
beans list.
No Yorion to even give you some bonus there. The sideboard, though, we've got the Kahira as a companion, 3 Stern Scoldings, 1 Dovin's Veto, 2 Crumble to Dust, 3 Chalice of the Voids, 2 Dress Down, and 3 Ley Lines of Sanctity.
So, yeah, those ley lines come in for sure quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Is there any way for Reed to win if a ley line resolves?
No, not usually. I mean, he can just
Outside of removing the ley line?
either remove ley line and just keep hitting with Titan, or like that's about it.
Yeah, so those are an easy include there.
You bring in the dress downs for Titans, maybe.
Yeah, the Dryad also has a relevant text box on it there. I mean, yeah, those ley lines seem like a great include. There's obviously so many cards that you can take out. On when you're rocking with 80 cards.
Honestly, I don't know what to take. I'm not much of a control player, so I just say rip all the prismatic endings. I
You
don't
play
know.
control on Arena, right?
That's Pioneer. These are just cards I haven't gotten used to. I haven't
These-
touched an elemental in ever.
He's got a little bit more juice on him.
Oh yeah. Oh, you definitely take out the Spring Verdicts. I feel like they're just too big.
Yeah.
But that's my personal call.
Yeah, once they hit the field. Yeah, because you got enough counter magic to deal with them otherwise. You have 3 time warps. I don't even know what those are doing in there. Oh my gosh.
He is on something, and I love it, but like I just don't understand it. It's just good stuff.
I don't know. All right, let's take a look at the Scape Shift list real quick here. See what Reed might be working with.
No.
He didn't submit a deck list.
This is something I can understand. Just play lands, go face,
Yeah, right. Pretty
And
simple.
play Titans.
I mean, you play Amulet Titan,
Oh,
so it's a pretty easy analog to understand what Reed is doing. Potential sideboard cards that he could be working with would be Flame Slash, Nature's Claim, Veil of Summer seems great against George, Broken Bond, Beast Within, Force of Vigor, another copy Escape Shift, Chalice, Engineer Explosive, Tormod's Script, Alpine Moon, Pithy Needle, more Valakuts. Lots of goodies to work with for sure. I think Veil of Summers are going to be, if he has these in his sideboard, of course,
Oh yeah, those come in instantly.
pretty easy include. I would love to be able to play this card in Pioneer. Fortunately, it is very banned.
I could come off one day.
You think?
One day.
Sure, why
Probably
not?
never, but
If we're wishing for stuff, give it a chance. We just got Cavern of Souls into Pioneer, which I think is pretty gas. I'm a big fan of that.
oh, I love the art on the new one.
Oh, it's really pretty. Ixalan is a stunning set for sure. Let's get back down into the action though here as players will shuffle up and George will be on the play with his Kahir companion revealed. Start off with a Triumph.
Oh, the flick of the wrist.
We'll start off with a turn 1 Valakut.
Turn
think-
2 up the beans.
Turn 2 up the Beanstalk. We're going to fetch out another land as well. I see an Explore. Is that a Wish in Reed's hand?
Oh, it better be.
I forgot he played that card. I think he had it the other day on camera as well. That's pretty gas.
Already unloading the forest.
Interesting. I thought he was going to cast the Explorer on his turn, but instead he's going to pitch it to this Force of Vigor, get rid of Beans.
That's an aggressive move right there.
I agree. Yeah. I think George had 2 copies out last game, and it enabled a lot of draw power.
I mean, if you have it, you have it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Personally, I would have held it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot better against like leyline binding here. But you might just be trying to use your turns as efficiently as possible.
That's a good point. Considering a wish.
And there it'll go. We'll see. You don't have to reveal it, do you? Just grab a card.
Yeah, it's just cast something out of your graveyard.
Well, it doesn't
Or
matter what it says
side.
because it's gonna get Dovin's vetoed.
Rip.
So sad there. We are up to 3 mountains though on Valakut. And George sitting past the turn back with 5 untapped mana.
The good old boy Steve. making an
Sakura
appearance.
Tribe Elder. I don't think that's gonna be targeted by a counterspell. It's pretty innocuous, little guy.
I don't know. It's a 15 turning clock.
I don't think he's sticking around that long. Ooh. Yeah, and I don't think you could minus the run and 6 there, target the Steve. But grabbing your fetch lands probably a much better call there.
Most likely.
We're slowly ticking up on the number of mountains, though. We'll grab another one here. Have you ever played Scape Shift before, or have you just played Amulet?
I have tested it out one time way back when.
Yeah, how'd you like
And
it?
too much math.
Yeah,
Nah.
doesn't Amulet have a bunch of math?
Oh, it does, but like I don't want to count ahead of time. I know everything in my hand. I'm just like gymnastics is there.
I feel like it's not that much more math, but I
Probably
guess you would
not.
know better than me. If the vibes aren't there and you don't want to play the deck, that's very fair.
You know, they both have Titan. They both have love in my heart.
Mhm.
But I want to hit people with Titan.
Yeah.
I want to turn 3 it out.
Right. Yeah. It does go faster. Scape Shift is a little bit of a slower thing.
Which we might be seeing.
Yeah.
Or he's going to wish again, maybe?
Scape Shift has the problem of if you get too many mountains before you combo, you can fizzle. Oh, because you can't find enough in. Mm. Yeah, because if you have to play them out, if you don't have a Dryad and you have to just have them out first.
Looks like he's just going for the Titan.
Yeah, and George thinking about letting it resolve here. All right, Dom is back in the studio. Reed took down game 1. We're now heavily into game 2, where not a lot has happened. Force of Vigor took down an early up the beanstalk on George's side of the field, and now he's got a Ren and 6 that he's used.
This seems like the classic when Reed plays a match where a player looks at their deck and goes, "Why do none of my cards do anything to stop you?"
Yeah, absolutely. Last game ended with Reed playing a primetime, grabbing 2 mountains, putting George to 2, and George did the math and was like, okay, and then replayed land for turn and was like, you're dead.
Thank you very much for doing the math, and let's complete the math.
And there you go.
Yeah, and my favorite thing, this prime time having keyword big, just being a massive 6/6.
Keyword big, for
right?
sure.
Even if George can find answers to the Valakuts and the mana, you still have to deal with the giant 6/6. And if you deal with the giant 6/6, you have to deal with the mana base.
Right. Bryce was just saying how Scape Shift has this awkward thing of having stuff that decks might not be able to deal with. Obviously, you can counter a Scape Shift or a Primeval Titan, but once those Valakuts are down on the field, there isn't unless you're playing against the weird Ponza deck that randomly showed up this week. They didn't play each other. That would have been a legendary matchup.
I wonder, did we see any Besagers from George in game 1 or possibly in their sideboard?
No, I don't think so.
Because that plus this run in 6 might be one of the true answers, as looks like Solitude takes out the Titan. So one problem check, but the mana base still a problem to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
Reed getting the stretch in. It's business time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, George might be doing the fanciest fetch in response to your fetch. I love being able to do this if your opponent goes to crack their final fetch land and they don't have access to any mana.
Mm-hmm.
That's sometimes the one spot if you need to pinpoint resolve something when they don't have mana. George thought about it, maybe needing to sneak something through, but understanding that Reed may not have that much to stop them either way.
Yeah, there's no Bosejus in his list at all.
Wowzers. Okay, so we definitely have to do this the hard way. I do see at least a single Crumble to Dust on board.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can draw that and take these Valakuts completely out of the game, I'll at least accept that.
Oh, absolutely. I honestly forgot what Crumble to Dust did when we were looking at George's sideboard earlier.
And
that seems really good in this matchup.
And Reed's natural land drops now turning into burn spells and Wish, looking to give us access to our entire sideboard if George lets it resolve.
I think he might just grab. I think he has a Valakut in his sideboard.
Oh.
So you could just slam that down on the field well.
That's so smart. George felt like we were going to get mana to hold up Counterspell in response to Reed cracking their fetch. This now has quite the feeling of
Forest.
I thought for sure it was just grab Island off this Misty, cast Counterspell. Forest is giving me a different...
Like a condescent? Oh, there's Beseiju. Okay, George, you gave us the wrong list, sir.
Wow, I can't believe it. This was a secret to all of us. but this is a very, very important Beseiju, which makes sense on why we were looking to do that in response. But Reed grabs Scape Shift, and it doesn't matter.
No,
You
it
can blow up one of these Valakuts, but I'm going to turn all of my lands into more mountains as much as I can and send all the pew-pews upstairs to take care of George. And that's the game. That's the round.
game. There you go.
Well,
Reed will take it down
perfecto.
in 2. George can't take a game off, and there will fall to the big beefy land that is Valakut. While we get our backup match slid over, let's take a look again at our weekly schedule. If you're looking to play some Magic at the store, come on down for any one of our fantastic magical nights. We got Commander on Mondays and Thursdays, Modern on Wednesdays, and Legacy on Fridays. We got a great Legacy crowd. We got a bunch of heavy hitters there, and a bunch of very generous people as well. As we all know, Legacy is a very expensive format to get into, but we have a lot of very friendly people that are happy to lend you cards or decks if you're looking to try out the format. So hit up our store Discord for that, or come on down to the store proper and get to know some of them. They're all very friendly and fun to play against in one of the fantastic formats that is Legacy. If you're looking to play any other games, such as Digimon, One Piece, Lorcana, or Pokemon, we offer those as well. We'll be streaming our Pokemon streams tomorrow night. That will be Paradox Rift Legal. That set comes out on Friday, but we do allow proxies for the day before just to get some good testing in, because those cards will be legal for our 1K Cup on Sunday, which we will be streaming as well. Come and see who's going to grab some of those coveted championship points. That event is completely sold out. So that will be a great one. What should we do? Let's check back in on the action here as we get this board state assembled. Who do we have playing against each other? We'll take a peek at our register here. We got Blake and Erman. Blake is playing Team Murktide. Erman is playing Cascading Beans. Dom said that Erman might have grabbed the deck that Ray was playing the other day. Cascading Beans probably. Alrighty. Blake took down the first game here, and we are in game 2.
I also got quick confirmation from Erman as I was like, "Hey, let me move your deck over real quick," and he went, "Oh, it's Ray's."
Oh, so it is Ray's. I was just mentioning that, yeah.
And Blake wanted to be very clear that they were playing Teamer Tide today.
Are they playing the Questing Druid version?
We're questing today.
Hell yeah.
Maybe one of the most metal adventures in Seek the Beast. Which is a great, great name.
Indeed.
It's such an interesting card design that it's meant to reference Questing Beast, but does not interact or share any similarities with Questing Beast.
They are both from Eldraine. How
Correct.
about that?
You're right, actually. Well, one's from Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah.
And one's from Throne of Eldraine. One's from Woe, one's from Toe.
From Toe? I've never heard it called that before. That's awesome.
Armand with Shardless, what could he possibly find? What would we be possibly cascading into? Gosh, it couldn't be any of these cards. Nope, none of these. Not this land, not that Virtue. Double showing of Virtue. Oh, look, it's Up the Beanstalk.
It's Up the Beanstalk. I saw that Fortnite Island as well. This is definitely Ray's deck.
That's the secret. We know where the basics come from.
Absolutely.
As Armand also set up double Triumph Steam Vents, having the full 5-color online. And now Blake seems to be debating the second spell from is Up the Beanstalk, triggering the Ledger Shredder. We drew a card, dropped the DRC, and now we seem also in the tank about this Beanstalk proper.
Yeah, and it looks like he is going to opt to cast this Spell Pierce that he's got sitting in his hand. Gotta grab that land for it, of course.
Gotta pierce these beans.
Great basic as well. Cup Island, my favorite.
I mean, who doesn't like a little sip of Island? I always wake up in the morning, have a little sip of Island.
A little sip of Island.
Some people wake up with coffee. I wake up with Zendikar Cup Island.
Mm-mm.
And the Spell Pierce does, in fact, resolve, gets this Beanstalk out of here. And Erman's left with a 3-mana 2/2. Whatever. This DRC is looking to become delirious. This Ledger Shredder flies. Mm-hmm. We have the Aerial Force out of Murktide.
Yeah, what's Blake got in his graveyard here? Have we hit Delirium yet?
That's a counterspell. That's a Dragon's Rage Channeler. That's another DRC. That's a Spell Pierce. And I believe that's a land. So it looks to be at 3 for Delirium so far.
Okay.
But I'm sure we can cast this Express Federation in our hand and finish it off.
Yeah. And get there very easily.
The Express Federation, banned in so many formats, barely even sniffed at, it feels like, in most of the time for Modern.
I know it was doing
Work.
It was It
for
was
a long time.
It was very relevant for a while, and it has sort of fallen by the wayside, but still an incredibly strong card.
If you're not playing Murktide or Prowess, I don't think you're playing this card.
Yeah.
And who's playing Murktide or Prowess?
At least a couple people, actually.
Whoa, is that a null? Is a null the one that counters target enchantment? Are we at that stage of Magic the Gathering that Murktide has a null in their sideboard?
It's for all these beans and ley
all
lines.
these beans.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had Echoing Calm last week, and we do, in fact, it was a null, counter target artifact or enchantment.
It's even better.
Just, wow. We're at this stage where we need the naturalized equivalent of counter spells just to make sure that we can keep up against Leyline Bindings, up the beanstalks, and all the stuff out of scales.
All right, crash in for 5 here.
Art thou delirious?
Get a quick check there.
Creature instant land and that newly found sorcery. And this aerial force, this is a part of the strength of Murktide. We saw this in last round when Bluetron snuck in a subtlety during the game. This is the Murktide plan, right? Put a pile of flyers out and just protect them and let them attack a couple of times to just put the game away.
We'll see a Nissa Resurgent Animist on Aramon's side of the field.
Fetch land. So this means the fetch land will make us a mana, and then we crack it, it'll make us another mana. On top of itself, we have 3 total mana to work with. The second landfall will trigger the second half of Nissa's ability, finding a reveal until we find an elf or elemental, meaning we're most likely to find remaining copies of Nissa or those big elementals.
Yeah, I think Nissa's the only elf in the deck.
And that was usually the debate on running multiple Nissas, is if you ever triggered one, your payoff of finding another Nissa is not nearly as great as finding the big elementals. So it's always wondering the consistency of having access to more Nissas, but the feeling of sometimes missing when you just find the backup.
Well, I assume she's legendary, right?
Right, so then you're stuck with one in hand, and then the only reason you would want that is just in case for later. We use it here to draw subtlety and put that in hand.
Yep, into hand there.
Nissa, very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And normally you would see it finding a Fury or a Solitude, but here we even get to find Subtlety, and now our creature more or less found us a counterspell for incoming creatures or walkers, but a part of the problem is this aerial force is still here. We didn't get Fury or Solitude answers to this. We instead got a counterspell.
It does technically count as a blocker because it flies itself, so you can chuck it under.
Right.
You can trade with a Dragon's Rage Channeler here. Unfortunately, you can't trade with the Ledger Shredder. It's a 2/4 now.
And Blake, if we can find a Lightning Bolt, could try to put this game away this turn. Start with a DRC into a Bobble. We get 2 Surveils to dig as deep as we can alongside a Shredder trigger.
Yeah.
I would have wanted to resolve my DRCs first to dig as far as I could before I physically drew a card into my hand.
Sure.
Because I'm on the hunt for a Bolt. I want this game done right now. But I kind of play pretty aggressively sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, the less turns your opponent has, the less game actions they take, the closer you are to winning that game.
I think this is the place to do it, though. Blake is sitting at 15. I don't think, Aramon is going to put him away too quickly there. This Leyline Binding will save a bit of damage, though.
My concern was a binding, but we did have a counterspell in hand, even to answer that binding. We now deal 6 points of damage. Aramon down to 2. In the danger zone with 3 lethal attackers against a deck that also has bolts floating around in their deck somewhere.
I think the best thing to get him out of this situation might be an Omnath, like with a land, gain you some life, then play another spell as well.
Yes, in any source to get maybe that big burst and maybe the double draw if you can get Omnath alongside a fetch land to have it on your turn, crack it on their turn. But also noticing Blake kept this card on top with their Surveil, so it's something good for what's going on here. Could you build like a 5-color Murktide to gain access to things like Leyline Binding?
5 color? You want to put black in there too?
Sure. I just want to turn on the Leyline Binding.
Yeah.
But this is such a deck so reliant on untapped mana at all stages of the game that I'm very wrong in trying to develop that deck, and you're very right, and here's the Somnath.
There's that Omnath. Did we?
Ooh, response to draw trigger. We're going to Unholy Heat this.
Oh, dang.
Remember,
That is really a heads up.
Omnath has this draw trigger to give you a single window to interact with the card. And we are going to use this chance, use this window to answer the Omnath. Remember, they put when this enters, draw a card to make this card worse.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't put that there, you would never have a priority window to interact before the first landfall trigger. This allows you to get a priority window to do something like this, use the Unholy Heat before it has access to playing a land per turn.
Yeah, and because of that, Blake will be able to take it down. Aramon wasn't able to gain any life there in face of all these flyers.
And the team are tied. Doesn't even need Questing Beast to show up. The old school Aerial Force plan with the newfound sideboard cards in a null allowed Teamer Tide to take down the Beans.
All right, that'll wrap up our feature match coverage of round 3. Let's take a look at where we're at here. We got a couple outgoing matches. So let's talk about the NRG series real quick in case you haven't heard about it. Our very last event is Thanksgiving weekend, and we'd love to see you there. We got a lot of money to give away and a lot of spots to be won from our leader point
race.
Race?
There are 7 players going to qualify as a result of this weekend. The winner of Saturday and the 6 at-large spots being solidified.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting one, so we hope to see you there. Of course, check out our coverage at NRG Series as well. With that being said, though, we're going to jump into a quick break here while we wait for round 3 to wrap up. But don't go anywhere because we'll be back soon. Thanks so much.
See y'all soon.
Welcome back, folks. We're in the final round here of Wednesday Night Modern. We got a busy one for you. We got Scales v Yawgmoth, so we dug into a bit and got every single die we could find.
Honestly, the smartest thing we could do is get as many dice as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have the potential to see some pretty busy board states here as players are shuffling up.
It's very interesting, right? Because we have the likelihood for a long, grindy game defined by cauldrons and what we could steal from each other, or there might be some real quick ones. There's no way to know.
We saw David kill on turn 3 or 4 in round 1.
Yep.
Against Burn. So, yeah, he can definitely get there very quickly. Yawgmoth, I think, pretty consistently wins a little slower. They don't really have that fast kill switch like Scales.
They have the access to black mana, Yawgmoth, go for the throats. They will have ways to answer the Scales threats.
Go for the throat, not super great in this matchup.
Completely true.
Are there any targets to hit with it?
Probably not. That's a great point.
Yeah.
At a minimum, we are also the number one thing Yawgmoth is good at is blocking. So as long as we can get opportunities to block, use Grist to pick off really important cards, we have the tools. The question is, will we get them fast enough before Scales completely runs us over?
Absolutely. David did win, I should note, not by combat damage, but by walking ballista triggers on another creature.
Right. Using your big creatures to get in for damage and then making them ballistas and firing off a lot of damage after that. Again, if I'm Yawgmoth, I'm looking to block, I'm looking to remove, and I'm looking to play my own game slowly and stop what they're doing. The classic, who's the control deck, who's the beatdown deck? Scales is going to try to kill as fast as it can, and Yawgmoths do what they can to stop it. But we see Danny mulliganing, and it gets harder and harder the less cards you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, someone in chat is saying pretty favored matchup for Yawg.
It feels like it with the words I'm saying, but I've died so quickly to Scales sometimes that it's one of those, when you think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, this should be fine, but still some draws just kill you. Especially, I always think about it with your Amulet Titan matchup. You're like, oh, my Titan matchup should be fine. They still sometimes just kill you. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you draw, but it matters more what they draw.
Yeah, even the most favored matchups have, the underdog winning sometimes.
Oh, yes. That's why we play the games, right? We
Yeah, exactly.
We don't just put the stats on the table and go, okay, thanks, bye.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to play.
Absolutely. As I think we've found our starting hands here. Danny's gonna tuck 2. We've got Yawgmoth proper in his hand and some other stuff as well.
And Danny's done. Danny's out of here. Forget
Is
it.
he
We're
running
done.
away? Where'd he go? Bryce, did you tell him to start or
He's going to chat with Yogg.
just have a little sidebar real quick?
Right. Hey, this is supposed to be favored for us, okay? We should be able to figure this out.
Hey man, I really need this. Hey,
Hey,
can
I
you
could-
just
I
help
would
me
like-
out
I would like
really quick?
Would really appreciate it. I would love to win.
Hey, please. I need that store credit. Did you see all the cool
Please.
cards that are coming out soon?
I need to buy a 4th Soul Cauldron, please.
Dude, I sold that card for $5 at Pearlie's, and I regretted it ever since.
Well, what did you use that $5 for?
It's probably still sitting in my account,
Hey,
honestly.
It could become anything.
It could be anything. It could be what? How much did you say that new One Ring is? The acid.
It's too much. So
Borderless poster.
You can ask my wallet. It's too much. But $5 gets you a start. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe just to start.
Mm-hmm.
David, pick your hand up again and do that quick sweep. I want to see what's there.
Yeah, let's see what they got here.
I did in fact see a scales, which
Mhm.
sounds great. Anytime your deck's named after a card, you want to draw that card.
We didn't see any round 1. He won without it.
It didn't
And-
even need it, huh?
Yeah. I could spend $5 on a booster and open a Soul Cauldron.
Oh, they're correct.
It could hit. What if it hit?
You could rinse and repeat. And you could be like, I really regretted the first one, but
Mhm.
this one, I won't regret it. I
I-
have a plan now.
My favorite thing to do, I mean, yeah, if I opened it, I would be like, oh, sick. Trade it in for credit.
Ching! Welcome back. And Danny, welcome back to you as well.
All right.
I think I see Forest, Pendelhaven, Yawgmoth. Not a great combo of green, double black.
Hmm.
And David into Forest, Hardened Scales. Danny with the very knowing nod of, uh-oh, okay.
All right. Sick. Yeah.
Good to know. This is that thought I was saying before. It could be quick as we go Takanuma into Wall of Roots. Urza Saga. Counter number 1.
Played a Takanuma as his
Ozolith.
black source.
This is how we saw David kill very quickly before. Just important 1-drop into important 2-drop into creature.
This is the other Ozolith. We saw the colorless one before. This is the new one from March of Machines. It is another scales effect.
Yeah, sure sounds like a scales effect. If 1 or more counter be put on an artifact or creature, you get that many +1. Hardened Scales, same deal. You get +1 more.
Yeah,
So
but it's got this added ability as well that you can put counters on, so you can get the ball rolling
Yes.
if you have nothing else on board.
This card very powerful, but it's at 2 mana, contesting a lot with the other 1 mana value engines that it could have access to. But 1 or 2 of these in a Scales deck feels right at home.
All right, looks like Danny might just play a Yawgmoth proper here. There it is.
Daddy's home. That's the name of my Yawgmoth deck on MTG Goldfish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Daddy's Home.
I like it.
Thank you so much. And Ancient Stirrings. We're on the hunt for a creature to put all these counters on. How's Arcbound Ravager sound? Or Patchwork.
Yeah, absolutely. I think David's assembling his pieces a little quicker than Danny here, even though Danny was on the play.
We have a land? David, do we have a land?
We'll see here. It's very scary if he doesn't have a land here, because next turn he's losing the Urza Saga.
Debate. Ravager in hand. Land in a stinky, inky ink moth. This is the one with Infect. Very importantly, a large kill condition for this deck. And this debate makes me feel like there's another 2-drop. We snapped the Ravager very quickly, but maybe now is not the time for it. Zabaz, the bee, buzz, 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 buzz. Interestingly, though, we're choosing this over a 2-drop. We may be in business for a double spell. The Shadow
And there's
Spear.
the Shadow Spear. The Lord of the Rings one as well.
This is going to get very big very quickly.
A single hit with this lifelink too is going to put him well out of reach of
Of the beatdown plan.
Yeah, of the beatdown plan for sure. Putting Danny probably on a solid combo line of play.
Tapping a mana here, getting a Strangleroot Geist ready to go. And I thought, and we played Young Wolf. So we have Young Wolf Strangleroot Yawgmoth assembled with 2 mana available and 19 life to work with. How do you feel about finding Blood Artist in the top 17 cards of our deck, or finding Court of Calling in that top 17?
I think it's pretty likely. The Blood Artist is a 1 of, correct? Yep. But Quarter Calling's a full 4 of.
Right, so we have about 17 cards to find our 5-outer. Or just sculpt the perfect hand before we decide to stop.
There it is.
Bingo! We said this is a race. Feels like Yawgmoth would be in the controlling role. But sometimes you just look at your hand and go, part A, part B, the combo sounds good to me.
And there you go. Yeah, it was looking. Danny seemed a little put out by the beginning of his turns, but got there on turn 4. Killed David. We'll go into sideboards. Let's take a look at these decks.
We have a Haywire Mite. We have Sir Ginger, the Meal Ender.
That was incredible.
2 Nature's Claim, a Tameo Safekeeping, Dismember, Force of Vigor, 2 Chalice of the Void, Tormod's Crypt, Welding Jar, Grafdigger's Cage, Pithing Needle, Damping
Sphere, yeah.
And Gemstone Cavern.
I trip up on that as well.
Yep. An important part here, the easy Gemstone Caverns math. Our Scales players may on the play, so we can at least remove 1 from the main to open up a slot for the sideboard stuff and swap it back if we're on game 3 on the draw. Other than that, I feel like I want to Dismember. It can remove Yawgmoth proper or any possible things that I'm not quite ready for. Like maybe my opponent has a Collector Oof or something. I just want to make sure I have unanswered just in case. And then I'm putting Tormod's Crypt into my deck to be found by Urza Saga, and I'm doing the same with Grafdigger's Cage, so I can draw it and find it with Saga, and with Pithing Needle, so I can draw it and find it with Saga.
Absolutely. Yawgmoth is a very graveyard-based deck, so Graveyard Hate is an easy include here. The Pithing Needle, also a little interesting to me. Lots of activated abilities. Obviously, Yawgmoth is the one you're probably going to go for most of all.
It's weird now because Soul Cauldron turns creatures, it gives them abilities, but doesn't give out the names.
Yeah.
And these 2 guys are out there, they knew they were 3-0, they were joking with each other, said, Pithing Needle, if you name Soul Cauldron, it shuts off both players' cauldrons. So it was like the do it, coward, you won't.
Mutually assured destruction there.
Yes. So the needle's coming in, but it's going to be so precise to what you name and when you name it, because a Wall of Roots could gain Yawgmoth's Ingress abilities, or an Ignoble Hire could gain those abilities. So you have to be so careful who you're going to name and say can't activate. Or do you just go for the throat and name Cauldron and shut it off for the both of you?
I wonder if there's ever been a game where you name Pithing Needle on a creature without an activated ability because of Soul Cauldron.
Because
so,
it may gain them.
Yeah, you just play Pithing Needle, name Strangleroot guys, but then it's like weirdly relevant.
Right. Because you know that may be the best target, or when it comes back to Undying, it'll gain all these abilities. It feels like, yes, I want this tool, but I have to be so specific and surgical with when I use it.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the Yawgmoth deck list as well, see what they might be able to bring in here against the Scales deck.
I'm seeing a Soulless Jailer. I'm seeing 2 Endurance, a Fulminator Mage, Fatal Push. We have a removal spell that's not good. This go for the throat. Legion's End, Terra Sunder, 2 Force of Vigor, Chalice of the Void, and Elven Chorus. Sign me up for these Force of Vigors.
Absolutely.
My opponent is Artifacts. I'm blowing them up. Terra Sunder, let me exile those. Fatal Push, let me push them off the cliff. And Legion's End, just exile these tiny creatures. As much removal as I possibly can. Yes, I know we won with the combo, but that shouldn't be the plan. The plan should be to hunker down and eventually take over the game. Just make sure they can't.
I have a question since I noticed this. Both of our example deck lists have Chalice of the Void in their decks, but I feel like the numbers that both of them would be casting at really affects both of their game plans.
Right. I feel these, they're both bringing Chalices for putting Chalice on 0 for trying to beat up on what I imagine may not be a great matchup in something, say, Living End. If I'm Hardened Scales, I don't want them Plague Winding my whole board and bringing back a bunch of big things.
Oh, okay, I see.
So Chalice of the Void usually here to lock down the zeros,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe in desperate situations realizing that, oh, I can shave a bunch of my ones to counteract their ones.
Awesome. This isn't the exact Yogg list, unfortunately. Though both of these players are regulars, they have not done their due diligence and have not submitted a deck list. We'll see if we can get on them about that at some point.
Yeah, it's just the list we just saw is the
Oh.
league winning 65-12 deck. All right, so don't be too hasty. The 65-12 is out there winning, just allowing yourself the most access to bullets in game 1 and siding out as many as you can in games 2 and 3.
I thought you had to have a full 15 in your sideboard.
Nope,
That's
you
not
just
a
can
rule?
never have more than 15.
Oh, okay.
You can show up technically with 0 card sideboard, no problems there.
Just arena players rolling up, say,
Yeah.
hey, what's up?
As we see Danny using their turn 1 to fetch out their dual land, and David already presenting Scales into Patchwork Automaton.
That is a very scary start.
Yeah, I'm terrified. Right, all the actions that David's going to take from here on out and put 2 counters on this Ward 2 threat that's going to be barreling down to try to end the game as quick as it can.
Mm-hmm.
Danny shuffling up, going to untap for our turn 2.
I see an Agatha's Soul Cauldron in his hand, but we gotta get some other stuff on the board first.
Second land, take a little bit of damage, hang up on somebody, and play out that Agatha's Soul Cauldron. No food for it to eat, nothing to put in the stew yet. We want to get it down to have it prepared to use for later.
Mm-hmm. Did he not have any 2-drop creatures in his hand?
Yeah, I had the same feeling when you pointed out the Soul Cauldron. I'm like, oh, I'm sure that's for later, but we got it out here early.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have this is a Boz.
We'll get 2 counters, 5 counters.
Big.
Hot
He
dang. We got
word
the
big.
Ozolith and the Hardened Scales. We're going to get 3 counters every time you go to put a counter on something.
Sure could use a wall of roots or something to block right about now.
Yeah, right?
And Danny, this Colony Guard,
Ooh,
that
that's a
0-1 block,
blocker.
that blocks.
Get that plan out there.
And then pass. My Bowmaster senses are tingling. But the question is, does David care? We have our Saga clearing here on mode 3.
Grab a Shadow Spear, crash in for a ton too would be good. Though there's probably better things to grab here.
I think we're going to...
Trigger, Patchwork triggers on any artifact though.
Yes. But I think David may have just realized your Shadow Spear line. Going to use this to search up the spear, have the remaining mana to equip, have this massive Patchwork Automaton, and give it lifelink and trample.
Mm-hmm.
Who made Shadow Spear cost 1? My goodness.
Some WotC employee.
It's
Yeah.
feeling lethal.
It feels pretty scary here for sure.
Because this puts 3 counters on the Patchwork? Or is Patchwork a cast trigger? Inquiring minds would want to know.
Let's see. And then we have an extra mana here.
That's the 2 to equip.
Yeah.
It is a cast, so specifically
Okay.
does not trigger here with this Morgul Knife, aka Shadow Spear.
But we got a lot of 1-drops and another land as well.
And if we want, we can have Zabaz eat itself. Or Legend with this new Zabaz to put 5 counters on the Patchwork, and then eat the remaining one, put 5 more counters on the Patchwork. Yeah, because this new one's going to Legend Rule and put all of its counters on the Patchwork, going up to 8. Going up to 8.
The cast trigger happens first, so we're resolving that, and then we'll legend roll, tack on the other ones.
Oh, there's even more. Yeah, I did the math. This is super lethal. This is big. We're not even worrying about eating it right now, because if we need to eat it in response to this Bowmaster, we can do so. And that's the game, scooping it up.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a ton of lifelink as well, even if you somehow manage to avoid lethal. I don't think you're coming back in that game.
Danny's game 1 answered by David's game 2, right?
Yeah.
Just here's the plan, present the plan, do it as fast as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. So we'll go to a game 3 here in our final round of the night. I'm sorry we didn't get that Spirits player on, folks. I know you guys were asking about it.
Well, if they're hearing us in the future, come on back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did a pretty good job of displaying some diverse decks tonight. We didn't have any scam. We did have a bunch of Beans decks, I will say, which is, the other top meta deck right now.
They keep winning.
I know that's the thing. Once you get into the late rounds, you got to put on the winning decks, right?
But here we have 2 decks, green, neither beans, and instead we're making some soup.
Yeah. Instead, we dumped a million dice on the table and said, "Have at it."
Yeah, we're doing okay so far. We just needed
Not too many.
a big amount of dice there for that final creature. But the question will be, will this game 3 look like one of those first 2 games, or is this the one destined to be the grindy matchup?
Yeah, we'll see here.
Opening hand, I see a bunch of lands for Danny, at least 3, possibly 4, a Yogg and a Cord. Oh, it looks like a hand of nothing. Beautiful mulligan choice there. We are not in a situation where we can keep anywhere close to a hand.
No,
like that.
no loose keeps here. I don't even think that was a very loose keep. That was just a easy mulligan.
Yeah, that's a no thank you in any matchups. David will present.
I will say I need to look back at our other Wednesday nights, but I feel like Danny has been very, very solid consistently for the past few weeks here. Yogg has shot up in the power rankings as well. I know Andrea Mengucci just dropped his November tier list as well.
Yogg is always resting right under the surface. A very good, just mid-range, aggressive combo deck. And the card Orcish Bowmaster can single-handedly carry you against some Beans matchups.
Yeah, no, the being able to gain advantage off their draw triggers is really huge.
Yeah, I believe players are winning deep into last round, just counteracting a lot of these Bean strategies with Bowmasters.
I'm trying to find Mangu's list here. He posts
the November power
so
rankings.
much. He plays a lot. There it is. Yeah.
Yogg's at number 2. Yeah.
Scam is the only one in A, and Yogg is number 1 in B tier, right above Hardened Scales.
Yeah, so we are seeing a big chunk of these 2 aggressive style decks with sideways combos and just big
sideways combos.
Because it feels that way, right? Like Scales kind of can just like nickel and dime you, and sometimes just does the biggest moving of counters on and just one shot kills you. Yawgmoth does the dancing, gets the full sacrifice synergies, and it feels like these are the quote unquote aggro decks of the format that are one of the main ways trying to keep up with value upon value, or the Rakdos scam trying to take that value away from you. These being just kind of mid-tier, all my cards kind of do a thing, trying to survive there in that middle.
All right, an Ignoble Hierarch and a Haywire Might on Danny's side of the field. A Hardened Scales for David as he begins his turn 2 here.
Urza Saga. Alongside that Grove of the Burn Willows.
We should fly out Garrick.
They were just here.
He was here the other week. He freaking 4-0'd. Stomped the competition.
I think they used up all the luck here then before the weekend, though.
Yeah, you think? Oh, at Indy?
Yeah.
Oh. Team Flex Slot.
Team Hollowed Fountain.
Team Hollowed Fountain. Yep.
We are doing a quick fetch here, setting up our mana for Danny's side. Alongside this Ignoble Hierarch, which I am not a big fan of in Yawgmoth right now. It seems you'll see a lot of Yawgmoth lists floating around, like the 4 halflings, and then they seem to be subsidizing their want for 1 mana accelerants, such as for situations like this, to power out their Yawgmoth. They seem to be prioritized using Ignoble Hierarch still. I'm just always so worried about the 1 toughness in this Bowmaster meta. But it seems like everything's kind of falling into where its spots are, and there aren't too many Bowmasters. You know, Danny being, I believe, our lone Yawgmoth player, removing a big Bowmaster matchup for them, and there not being a single Rakdos Scam player out there, also removing a very, very difficult matchup for the Bowmaster back and forth. Just allows them to reign free with this 1/1.
Mm-hmm. We're going to eat it with the Yawgmoth here. Draw a card. Go to 20 all.
Floating a beautiful white border card through Danny's hand. I hope it comes up.
Which card is it?
We believe it to be Spike Feeder, which is a classic, beautiful combo that's inching its way in because of the Agatha Soul Cauldron synergies, but it enters with 2 1/1 counters, and you can remove a counter to gain 2. And I think if you put it in the soup, can end up in situations where you can gain a whole lot of life.
Oh, interesting. Oh, and
This Cauldron eaten the Haywire Might that Danny had used to answer David's first Urza Saga. Yeah, this Agatha Soul Cauldron affecting both graveyards can really mess up what this match looks like. And I was saying we had 2 fast ones for the first 2. This is already starting to shape up to maybe be the grindy back and forth.
Did Danny pop anything with the Haywire Mites?
We used it to pop a Saga a few turns ago.
Oh, I see.
It was floating in the graveyard, and now David's added to their soup. Allowing this Hangback Walker to answer something if it'd like, to sacrifice itself to get those Thopters in.
Yeah.
Not zero strategy if you want to get as many blockers as you can. But already showing that there's a lot of sideways ways you can use cards that maybe you weren't prepared to use them in that way.
Right.
Soul Cauldron has that effect on games. When you start stealing things from the opponent's deck, you unlock a puzzle you haven't solved before.
Yeah, when we first saw it, I talked a lot about how I feel like there's still some things to discover with it because it's such a versatile card. And I'm just now discovering it. Obviously, it was discovered like a while ago that you can do those kinds of interactions. But yeah, I think it's still got some room to grow here.
Like, I can imagine if David put a Grist into the Cauldron, Hardened Scales isn't used to having access to what Grist can do. So there's a lot with this Cauldron, like we said, being able to take cards from both graveyards really just changes the whole back and forth.
Yeah, you can start putting loyalty counters on your creatures. All sorts of fun stuff. Good. Dryad Arbor is land for turn.
And we have the Zulbar Cutthroat that we played out last turn, prioritizing getting it into play as opposed to like keeping it safe in hand. Dryad Arbor is land per turn, making its way up to the creature area. And I believe we have a Force of Vigor in hand for Danny, which I imagine is going to come up and may come up soon. I have a feeling it may be cast on David's upkeep to hit Saga and one of these important artifacts or enchantments. Dryad Arbor has been eaten and will be used to remove that Hangerback Walker from play. It does die and trigger its ability, and see that has 0 counters and it makes 0 Thopters.
Oh, good to know there. And there's the Force
of Vigor. Why not? We'll just use our mana, right? And the question here is the targets, and it looks to be the Soul Cauldron. It's going to eat 1 last card on its way out, and then the Urza Saga, allowing us to both destroy a land and to not allow David to get that search on their turn.
Yeah. So those will be exiled. So they can't be eaten by Danny's own Soul Cauldron if he ever gets one out.
Yeah, using that last chance to also use the Cauldron as graveyard hate alongside the rest of what it can do. But the game is truly still on as Arcbound Ravager comes in with its extra counter from this Hardened Scales. And now it is Danny's job to just control the slow bleed that David now has going on. We've taken care of a lot of the early game, and now we just need to slowly pick off piece by piece as they try to threaten more and more.
David just had a really quick turn there. Was he supposed to uptick the Urza Saga?
This was the saga we just played for turn. Our old one was destroyed by
the
Force.
He destroyed the second. Okay, yeah. Alrighty. I think we're going to fix a board state error right now.
Taking a quick pick, just making sure everything is exactly where it needs to be. Looks like they made their way just far off camera, but they are back.
There we go. Now we got everything completely accurate.
Everything is a-okay.
So he had a third saga in his hand. That's why I was so confused.
Just
That's
casual third saga.
So many sagas. Okay.
the aggressive plan of Zulaport Cutthroat attacking.
Don't see that too often.
No, I've attacked with my share of Zulaport Cutthroats, and it takes a while. As we see Patrick Automaton first, followed by Arcbound
Yeah,
Ravager.
we're putting those down at the same time, but the sequencing there is very important.
It's one of those scenarios where both players understand. It's like, yeah, I just have these, and it's like, in this order, so they work properly. Danny says absolutely no problem, moves right on back. Any chance to save time is always appreciated.
First, at end step, we're going to eat a young wolf.
Yep. Removing a counter from the Arcbound Ravager.
And a trigger off the Zulaport Cutthroat as well. Put David to 8.
And now this patchwork is very big, but we have the blockers. So the question will be is, do we have an answer for the Urza Saga before it finds Shadow Spear? We seem to have Fatal Push with the ability to pay for Ward. And we may be able to remove this automaton before it even becomes a problem.
And then
if
we
do
have
so, right.
2, 3, 4, 5. What's that last creature? We have
an Orcish Bowmaster hidden by the light. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we can sacrifice the rest of our board to trigger our Cutthroats.
Yeah.
So if we use our chance here to push to remove the blocker and pay for Ward, we may be able to take this down this turn.
Oh.
And David sees the writing on the wall. And congratulations to your undefeated player, 4-0 on Agatha's Soul Cauldron, making that soup for the Yogg father. Yawgmoth taking it down 4-0. Congratulations to Danny.
Well said. That'll wrap up our coverage for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we go, we'll just give you a quick reminder of everything you should know. First, let's talk about nerdragegaming.com. You can find all sorts of fantastic magical cards there to purchase. Scheduled for in-store pickup or ship countrywide. If we don't have any cards that you're looking for, add them to your wish list and get notified as soon as we list more, because we're listing more every day. We also have a great loyalty rewards program. The more you spend, the more you save. If you're looking to play some Magic yourself, check out our weekly schedule. We have all sorts of different games for you to play. We've got great events coming up as well. We got our Pokemon 1K. We got BT14 pre-release. We got Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-release, Lorcana pre-release. All sorts of fantastic Magic and other card games to play as well. With that being said, though, let's take a quick look at the NRG series. Y'all know about it. Y'all should be there. So excited to have you. Check out our Discord, our Twitter, all of our socials for information on that. Go to melee.gg to sign up for it and register. With that being said, now we'll sign out here. This has been Haviva Goodman alongside Dominic Striker. Dom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I may see you all soon.
Oh, keep an eye out. Chat, thank y'all so much for joining us. With that, have a good night.
Toodaloo.